Welcome to the regular meeting of the Cape Coral City Council. Today is August 21st, 2024. This meeting now comes to order. Please stand for the invocation and the Pledge of Allegiance by Councilmember Steinke.
Bow our heads, please. Father, we thank you for this evening. We thank you for this gathering. And we thank you for the opportunity that you give to us to live in a free land. We thank you for the opportunity to make decisions. We thank you for those that have gone before us, that have given us those rights and those privileges. We pray that you'd be with the families of those that paid the ultimate price for us to have those freedoms. And we ask your blessing upon those that have served, the veterans in our community and across this land. We thank you for those that protect us locally. Pray that you would be with them. Keep them safely within your grasp and be with their families while they are on duty. Father, we also thank you for all the blessings that you've bestowed upon us. We pray that you'd allow us to understand that while we have the freedoms, we all have the freedoms, and we have to respect those who want to explore those freedoms differently than we do. Father, thank you for the opportunity to serve. Thank you for the opportunity to discern the best that we can for our current population and the population that will come in the future. Ask your blessing upon this meeting, the decisions that are being made, and all of the people here. We ask this in the name of Jesus. Amen.
Amen.
Please join me in the pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Madam City Clerk, please call the roll.
Mayor Gunter.
Here.
Council members Carr.
Here.
Costin.
Here.
Hayden.
Here.
Long.
Here.
Shepherd.
Here.
Steinke.
Here.
Welsh.
Here.
8 present.
Okay, item 5 is changes to the agenda. Are they any changes to the agenda, or do I have a motion to adopt the agenda as presented?
Motion to adopt.
Madam City Clerk, please call the roll.
Shepherd.
Aye.
Steinke.
Aye.
Welsh.
Aye.
Carr.
Aye.
Costin.
Aye.
Gunter.
Aye.
Hayden.
Aye.
Long. 8 ayes. Motion carried.
Okay, item 6 is recognitions and achievements. Item 6A is Community Recognitions Award. Mr. City Manager.
Tonight's Community Recognition Award goes to Taez Bezikito Allen. Thank you, everyone. Today it's my honor to recognize a Cape Coral resident who is helping shape some of our area's best athletes. Taez Bezikito Allen is currently the head coach of Florida Southwestern College's 2-time National Junior Collegiate Athletic Association Junior Championship volleyball team. She has twice been named the NJCAA National Coach of the Year, leading her team to a 58-2 record over the past 2 seasons. She also ensures her athletes are successfully academically, having won 5 straight American Volleyball Coaches Association Team Academic Awards. In the past 4 years, 22 of her players have moved on to the National Collegiate Athletic Association's Division I level under her guidance. On behalf of Cape Coral, we're proud to present you this Community Recognition Award. Thank you, Taez, for your dedication and excellence in collegiate volleyball and for being an outstanding resident of the city of Cape Coral.
Yeah, congratulations. All right. Thank you. And the next recognition award is for the communications, earns a Florida Municipal Communicators Association 2024 Outstanding Award. Mr. City Manager?
Thank you. Thank you, Mayor. I'm going to have my team come up. My name is Melissa Mickey. I'm the communications manager for the city of Cape Coral. And I'm thrilled to be here today to share some exciting news out of the Office of Communications and some of our incredible work. If we want to go ahead and go through here. It is with great pride that I announce that our team has been honored with not one, but 3 prestigious awards at this year's Florida Municipal Communicators Association Conference. We received the 2024 Outstanding Award for Special Event or Commemoration for our work marketing the inaugural Trunk or Treat event back in 2022. Our submission was evaluated on the summary of earned media, attendance, feedback, print, video, digital, and social media elements. But this event was more than just a celebration. It brought hope and normalcy to our residents and our staff directly after the devastation of Hurricane Ian. Bringing our community together in a safe and joyful environment was our top priority, and this award is a testament to the hard work and creativity that went into making it a reality. Sorry, makes me a little emotional. I want to take a moment to extend a heartfelt thank you to our special events team, whose dedication and hard work made Trunk or Treat possible. This award doesn't just recognize our innovation, but it reflects our unwavering commitment to the people of Cape Coral. We also received honorable mentions for 2 outstanding efforts, a dynamic social media campaign and a powerful in-house video submission. Our social media campaign was on the rich history of Cape Coral, and it engaged our community, fostered a deeper connection, and celebrated our city's heritage. Our video, celebrating International Women's Day, showcased the remarkable contributions of the women who work for the city of Cape Coral. I couldn't be more proud of our team. Their creativity and passion for our city are evident in every project that they undertake. These awards are a testament to their excellence, and I'm truly excited to see what we can accomplish together as we continue to serve and celebrate this wonderful community. Together, we are achieving great things, you guys, and I can't wait to see where we go from here. So thank you, and thank you. And just a quick, just to introduce everybody on the communications team, and actually we have more members, but it's our 301 call center staff. We have Michelle Dean, our communications supervisor. We have Lauren Kirkamillis, our public information specialist. We have Caitlin Mullen, our senior public information specialist. We have Michael Dest, our digital and graphic content creator, social media extraordinaire. And then also the heart of our office, Iris Harder, our administrative specialist? Assistant. I always promote her. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Melissa, for all your hard work you and your team do for this city, and this is just another testament of the great job that you're doing, so thank you. Okay, item 7 on the agenda is approval of minutes. Do we have a motion regarding the minutes of the regular meeting of August 7th, 2024?
Motion to approve.
Is there any council discussion? Seeing none? Please signify with an aye for approval.
Aye.
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 The ayes have it, the motion passes. Move on to item 8, citizens' input time. And before I open up citizens' input today, I'd like to announce that specific to those appearing today to speak on the unfinished business of item 9C2, the second and final public hearing to reach a determination on the unsolicited public-private partnership proposal received for the J.C. Park improvements, please note that once we open that particular item, that's when Anyone who wishes to speak on that item will speak, exactly like we did in our last meeting when we had the first public hearing. We waited until that time to speak on that specific topic. So when I open up citizens' input today, it will be on any other topics other than the J.C. Park topic. So with that being said, please remember to identify us as a council, not as an individual, and to state your name for the record. So at that time, I'll open up citizens' input on any other topics besides J.C. Park.
Good afternoon, guys, gentlemen. Christopher Doyen, 231 Southeast 9th Terrace. This is about the ongoing flooding issue. Mr. Welch on 9th Terrace. You remember our meeting a couple of years ago? You've gotten some emails lately from Mr. Snyder, correct? Okay, they've gone unnoted, just so you know. I've spoken with Mr. Williams today, and I'm going to read off some stuff here that I think, Mr. Gunter, there's a lot of you that are new. I remember Gloria, the last time I was here, was over there. This neighborhood is not just 9th Terrace, it's Southeast 1st Place, Southeast 8th Terrace, and Southeast 4th Place along Hunter's Run, okay? And the PW number is 14980 is the complaint. So if you guys can pull it up or read it, so I don't have to read it, I'm just gonna give you what our feeling is on it, and we'll go from there. The engineer on that project, I have to mention by name, is Mr. Delgado, knew and knows full well that the work performed would not solve the issue in our backyards, as they are completely separate from the drainage to Nicholas Parkway. And we all know about this project. There's no secret. Let me see where I was at. When asked what the city was going to do about my issue, Delgado shrugged his shoulders with a smirk on his face. I have the witnesses, and he also threatened to have me arrested, and it was over a drain. This is how far this has gotten. We have endured this flooding since 2005 or 6, when Celebration Cape was built, and 2 times a year, or 5 to 6 times a year, while also putting up with the treatment of Delgado from the city employees. It took me umpteen phone calls and a flyback from Maine, and finally I got a call back from this man in this corner over here today, and that was 2 weeks ago. This is the kind of stuff we get, and you guys seen some of the footage, some of the water. It's incredible. Our yards are just, they're obliviated. The water's just coming up into the pools, they're coming up to the sliders. It's out of control, and nothing's being done about it. I did speak with him. He is saying he is gonna come out tomorrow. I've asked for some pumps for, when we do have a heavy rain. We're done. I mean, it's ugly, and Mr. Welch has the footage. There's nothing else. He has the pictures. So let me, going on. What's that? Anyway, Celebration Cape, we need help. You guys, I mean, this is just 20 years of, come on, it's enough. Len, you need to.
Thank you, sir. It sounds like you spoke to Mr. Williams in Public
Yes,
Works. That's the guy you need to be talking to.
and you guys are aware of it.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. Joe Kilrain, District 5, 20-year resident. Just a couple comments and a status update request. I'd like to understand where we're at in evaluating the scope of the yacht club and the dollars that are going to be involved with that, and any description of where the anticipated dollars are coming from for that. In addition, also on the Go Bond projects, we know that we're overrun on those projects, and I haven't heard a status recently as to what the cost evaluation has been on all of those collectively. And based on that, I'd like to understand, since it was a Go Bond obligated tax revenue source, I would like to know where we're at on that overrun and where that additional source of funding is coming from or anticipated to be coming from. I know it's a little bit past when we were talking about doing this before, a few months ago, and it still hasn't been updated in a satisfactory manner, I think, to inform the residents and the public about it. I'd like to understand in detail where both of those are at and what the numbers look like. We're already looking at putting additional things on the plate. I think it's very important that we understand the total package that we're going to incur, because even though we have a deferred payment schedule that is, that we can source a bridge funding for with the commercial paper, it still doesn't take care of the long-term debt issue and the increment to that long-term debt and where that might be coming from. Thank you very much. Please, if you could have an update on that very shortly. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else wishing to speak?
My name is Scott Kemp. It's my understanding that the City Council has approved a raise for our city attorney. I'm just wondering, was that in reward for permitting this body to run over my First and Fourth Amendment rights in this chamber and subsequently, on repeated meetings, eventually forcibly arrest me? I would think a city attorney would have stood up and would have intercepted you in your effort and would have advised you accordingly. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
I am William Muller, and I think everyone here knows there are many things the mayor and city council are doing that I, along with thousands of others, do not agree with. Today, I would like to talk about something the city council is not doing, something I believe they should do. The Calendar Girls of Cape Coral is a dance team of older ladies who have been performing at various locations and events throughout Cape Coral for 20 years. And they have probably brought more entertainment and happiness to people living in nursing homes and retirement homes than anyone else in our city. But there is much more to what they do. The Calendar Girls of Cape Coral raise funds to buy service dogs for veterans. So far, they have paid for at least 38 trained service dogs and given them to veterans who, without the help and sacrifices made by the Calendar Girls, would have far less satisfying lives. Which is why I am here today. Over the years, the city of Cape Coral has recognized and honored citizens who have made valuable contributions to our city. But the Calendar of Cape Coral have been ignored. So I am asking the mayor and the members of the city council to consider recognizing and honoring the Calendar Girls of Cape Coral for their contributions to veterans and for the immeasurable happiness they have brought to countless members of our community. 2 documentaries about the Calendar Girls have been made by outsiders. One was one of 5 documentaries selected from more than 3,500 submissions for consideration by the Sundance Film Festival. Another, which was financed by the Discovery Channel, has, from what I know, been purchased by Warner Brothers Studio. And I, after being inspired by what I consider a miracle experience in J.C. Park, made a documentary of the Calendar Girls offering advice that could be used by anyone in any city or town in the world to create their own dance for charity group. The Calendar Girls were honored by the city of Fort Myers in 2010 and again in 2015 for their efforts to raise money for service dogs for veterans. And their documentary was shown at the Sidney Byrne Davis Arts Center in downtown Fort Myers. But they have never been recognized by the city of Cape Coral, even though Cape Coral is their home base. And even though it is unlikely anyone else has made as many people's lives happier and better in the city of Cape Coral than the Calendar Girls. All of which leads me to ask the mayor and city council to step up and recognize and honor the Calendar Girls of Cape Coral for what they have contributed to our city. Sent from my iPhone.
Thank you.
The last 20 years. And they have practiced about 3 days a week, and they do about 4 shows a week. So they're going every day almost, and they put their hearts into it.
Thank you.
Good afternoon, folks. Thanks for letting me speak. My name is Pete Nicholson. I've been a resident of Cape Coral for 28 years. I know one of you since you were 14 years old. I'm a retired New York City police sergeant. I'm a retired Marine veteran, Vietnam veteran, and I'm a retired City of Cape Coral worker. I am also, and I'm proud to say, an alcoholic. I'm going to meetings. I'm fixing my life up. I don't drive around the streets drunk anymore. And I don't speak lies anymore. And I go to J.C. Parks 7 days a week. The park is used. I call it Cape Coral Sorelli Park. I would appreciate you reconsidering. I understand that change has to happen, but we don't have to become New York City. I live there. I don't ever want to go back. Thank you very much for listening to me.
Yes, sir, go ahead.
My name's Foshin Ramsey. I've lived here for 10 years. I guess I'm here to talk about, I don't have any issues, so I'm not going to yell at y'all. I'm with AmericanCivilDebate.com. I've been sending emails out to a lot of people and talking to a lot of people about doing debates for the council people candidates running for council. What I want to do is I'm just asking y'all if any of y'all are still interested. I got about District 3 or 2, 4, and 5 wanting to debate. We're going to do live debates online where people can ask the questions. I think a lot of people have a lot of questions to ask y'all. I'm getting a lot of good response back from people wanting to participate in this. So I'm going to leave some cards over, and that's it. I'm going to let, hopefully, some of y'all call me back, and let's get this debate going. So if that's okay, may I leave some cards for everybody?
Well, you can leave it with the city clerk.
Beg pardon?
You can leave it with the city clerk?
Okay, certainly.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Do you have any more?
Anyone else wishing to
Yes,
speak?
ma'am, I do. Actually,
Speak
yes,
during
ma'am.
citizens' input?
Sir?
Up. Come on up, sir.
You know who I am. I'm going to do the same thing. Actually, I'm going to give you my name. My name is David Kalish, because I want people to know who I am. Anyway, the first point I want to bring up was the gentleman spoke about his arrest, okay? There was one thing that was forgotten, and the reason I know about it, I read it in the paper, okay? That the $100,000 that was settled, okay, went all on the backs of everybody who lives in this city, okay? We didn't create it, we didn't cause it, we know who did, so I just wanted to make sure that that point was brought up. I'll save the another thing. I find it very interesting and amazing that we're going to be talking about J.C. Park later, because you said we're not talking about it now. And there's a lot of people, unfamiliar faces in this room. So I guess it's going to be fun. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else wishing to speak for citizens' input? Podium to the right there, sir, please.
You can pull the mic closer to you.
They call me Al Sid, and I'm from the Southwest. I've been in the Cape about 30 years. I wasn't going to come up here free-handed. But there's a couple things going on in the city here people don't really understand. These schools, with these people picking up their kids, starting with Savone, all the way from that elementary school, down Savone, down on Chiquita, about a half a mile on Chiquita. They do about 45 to 55 miles an hour there. I've called the cops a couple times. They ask me why. people almost cut you off trying to get out of the turn lane to the right side. You go over by Ida Baker and the other middle school over there, they got cars on both sides. Try to get through, you gotta kind of fight your way through, and who's gonna give up the middle? That's one of the problems we're having there. Also, these electric bikes riding around here, some of them do 50 miles an hour. There's nobody doing anything about it. Do they ride in the park? Can they ride in the park? Can they ride on the sidewalk? Can they ride in the street? We just had some kid got hit by on Aloysia and Cape Coral Parkway. I saw him picking them up, dusting them off, come to find out, somebody hit and run him, they said. But was he on the street? Was he on the sidewalk? He's on an electric scooter. You seen the unicycles, electric, they fly down the streets. I've clocked some of them, especially cycles at 30 miles an hour. These are young kids, 12 years old, 11 years old. Nobody pays attention to stop signs, so you might as well just move those out of the way too. But something's got to be done on these electric bikes. Everybody's talked about we're going to do something, but we're not doing anything. Either we're going to have some laws about it, or what are we doing? That's one of the things I've saw, and I thought I'd talk about it, see if we can get that moving. Thank you. Appreciate it.
Thank you, sir. Anyone else wishing to speak during citizens' input? Please come forward. Seeing none, citizens' input is now closed. Is there any council discussion on citizens' input? Councilmember Welsh?
Thank you. There was one resident who came up and asked questions about the Gobon parks and the updates and what is going on. I want to let them know if they go to capecoral.gov, there's a link that provides all the quarterly reports that is presented to council and has all those answers for you. It's just a click of a button away. Thank you.
Councilmember Steinke.
Thank you. Just a question, a comment and a question. Two friends of mine actually are calendar girls, and I would agree with everything that was said. Just a quick question of our city manager. How would a recommendation be made for a group, an entity, an individual that should be considered for one of the wards, so that if any one of our citizens has a recommendation, how would they go about doing that?
An email to or a phone call to the communications division in the city.
Okay, thank you.
Councilmember Shepherd.
To the individual that talked about the new types of transportation, the electric wheels, the electric bikes and things like that. We've been talking about that in meetings on, you know, what are the laws and things like that. Maybe the city manager can have the chief explain the different regulations for these vehicles being on the road and what we're allowed to do and not allowed to do.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. Anthony Sizemore, Police Chief. If you could please repeat, Councilmember Shepherd, was there a specific question or just a general overview of it's a very comprehensive topic.
In the past, I know we talked about these new electric bikes that literally go like 35 to 40 miles an hour. And also I've been seeing people, they literally wear a helmet and they're riding on one wheel and riding down the street. And I had concerns in the past, and I just wanted you to let the citizens know.
Sure. I'll pare it down as brief as I can for a discussion like this. We can get very, very detailed or granular in a different forum, but there's many different types of modes of transportation. I know the city, the traffic engineering department is working on a multimodal transportation plan, so some of that will fit into that. But there's motorcycles, mopeds, scooters. There's a delineation of 50 cc's or cubic centimeter engines. If it's below that, it's on the same par as a bicycle. If a bicycle is on the sidewalk, it's considered a pedestrian. If a bicycle is on the road, it's considered a vehicle. If it's a vehicle, it needs to adhere to all other vehicular traffic laws, such as stop signs, yielding at intersections, etc. If a under 50 cc, considered a bicycle, becomes a pedestrian on the sidewalk, they'll have to abide by all other pedestrian rules. As far as speed limits, if they're operating on the roadway, it has to be a vehicle suited to be on the roadway. And like I stated before, they would have to adhere to all speed limits. There's also a little caveat with technology far outpacing statutory regulations. So there's all kinds of modes of transportation that have outpaced legislature's laws in Tallahassee. So there's one that was codified here at City Council where we had specific zones in the city. There was one in particular by the municipal golf course and Saratoga Lake Park that was deemed a golf cart appropriate neighborhood that has been repealed, and we fall under the state statute for a low-speed vehicle, which are your what are commonly referred to as street legal golf carts. Street legal golf carts or low-speed vehicles have to be insured, registered, mirrors, seat belts, a licensed driver, et cetera, and they are permitted on roadways statutorily allowed 35 miles an hour or below. I could go on, but it's a very vast topic, and we are aware of it. The Transportation Department is aware of it, and we are doing our best to keep pace with the speed of technology with that.
Thank you. Yeah, you brought up the points that I was looking for. Thank you.
Okay.
Just want the public to know that we're aware. And
Okay, and I know one resident had asked for some additional information for the Parks Go bond. I did actually have a meeting today on that, so I have a pretty comprehensive analysis on those dollars that I will probably be speaking about when we get to the topic of J.C. Park. So I'll be able to give you some numbers that I think you may be looking for. With that, I don't see any other lights on, so we will move on to item 9, which is business. 9A is the consent agenda. I'll open the consent agenda for council to pull any items for discussion. Seeing none, is there a motion regarding the consent agenda?
Motion to approve the consent agenda.
Any council discussion? Seeing none, Madam City Clerk, please call the roll.
Shepherd. Aye. Steinke.
Aye.
Welsh.
Aye.
Carr.
Aye.
Cosden. Aye. Gunter.
Aye.
Hayden.
Aye.
Long. 8 ayes, motion carried.
Okay, move on to item 9B is appointments to boards and committees. We do not have anything listed, so we'll move on to 9C is unfinished business. C1 is follow-up items. We have Resolution 209-24. This is the resolution pertaining to the P3 agreement with J.C. Park. Madam City Clerk, before we get into that, first off, could I see a show of hands who would like to speak during the hearing with that tonight? Just please raise your hand. All right, so it looks like we got about 20 people. So if we want to try to keep within the confines of the 60 minutes, that's about 3 minutes per individual. Is that, I believe we did that in the first public hearing on this topic. Is that what council wants to do this time as well?
I'm okay with it.
Everybody okay with the 3 minutes?
Yeah, that's reasonable.
and the 60?
Yeah, I would, Mayor, I don't know how quickly you could count, but if it goes a little bit above that, I think we should open it up for.
Yeah, I mean,
3 minutes per.
If we get down to 2 people, I
Okay.
have no problem letting them 2, but count of hands, it looked like if we got 20 people at 3 minutes, that's about 60 minutes. If not, we'll reevaluate it once we get to the 60 minutes. Okay, with that being said, Madam City Clerk, please read the title.
Resolution 209-24, a resolution of the mayor and council of the city of Cape Coral, Florida, determining that the unsolicited public-private partnership proposal received from Fortress Secured LLC for the J.C. Park Improvement Project is in the public's interest. Approving the comprehensive agreement between the city of Cape Coral and Fortress Secured LLC and the concessionaires agreement between the city of Cape Coral and the Reef Cape Coral LLC. Authorizing the city manager or their designee to execute both agreements, providing for an effective date.
Thank you, and I'll turn it over to our Assistant City Manager, Ms. Barron.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. Connie Barron, Assistant City Manager. I didn't know if the city attorney wanted to quickly opine on the reason for the second public hearing, as we did in the first public hearing.
Yeah, if the mayor would like. So we are here today as a result of a legislative change to the public-private partnership statute. It's a change that was done in order to more embrace public-private partnerships via unsolicited proposals. And as a part of that amendment to the statutory provision, this is the second public hearing that is required of that statute, and we are here in order to establish the compliance with the factors that are now required for consideration that was originally brought up and heard during the first public hearing. That is all set forth and identified within the resolution, which does in fact show that there was consideration of those statutory factors that has been set forth within the resolution, identifying that there has been compliance with all 5 of the criteria in consideration of this unsolicited proposal, if there is in fact going to be approval by the mayor and city council.
Thank you. So I want to go back and, like I did at the first meeting, just kind of give us a quick recap of where we got to where we are today. And it goes back all the way to March of 2022, when we issued an RFP for the design of the J.C. Park improvements. We selected Pannoni Associates in May of 2022 to provide those services, and before we negotiated a contract with them, we asked them to prepare some initial concept for City Council before we move forward. The initial concept was then presented to City Council at their winter retreat in January of last year. We then brought Pannoni a contract for design and engineering services. We brought that back to council on May the 3rd, and council gave approval to proceed pending public involvement meetings. We did hold a couple of those. One was the open house that we had at Mercola in August, and then we had the online community survey that we solicited feedback on various park amenities. The feedback that was received from both the open house and the survey were presented to council at the committee of the whole meeting in September of last year, and then council approved the resolution on October 18th to begin the design work. In November, just shortly after council approved moving forward with the project, the city was approached with an unsolicited P3 proposal from Fortress Secured. It was deemed a qualified proposal according to the requirements of Section 255.065 at the time. So per those requirements, we had to publish notice of receipt of this project improvement. We did that on January 3rd and January 10th of this year. And then we also had to place notice in the Florida Administrative Register on 2 separate dates as well. The deadline to submit any competing proposals was January the 26th, and no competing proposals were received. We had a short timeline on that. We could have gone up to 120 days, but the reason that we did not was because this was not a complicated project. A lot of times these P3 projects involve building city halls or other types of buildings, some major vertical construction. We did not have major vertical construction on this project, so we did not think it was necessary to extend it for a long period of time because there weren't that many complications to it. Then on February the 15th, we had our kickoff meeting with the P3 group. The key members of the P3 team started participating in our weekly meetings and updates that we were having with Pannoni. And then on July 1st, the new provisions of Section 255.065 came into effect, and that's where we are today with the second public hearing. So why use a public-private partnership delivery process? There are several reasons or benefits to that. You get a project that's on time and on budget, which is something that when it comes to on time, or at least a timeline, your standard procurement processes can take a little bit longer. There's some cost certainty. In this case, we have a not-to-exceed amount for this contract or agreement. And there's accountability. You have one team that you work with throughout the project. You can have greater innovation as the city and the designer and the P3 team work together to develop the final design and the final documents for the project. You also can be assured of a quality project because the team is working so closely together. You have the accelerated delivery, as I mentioned before. There's public ownership and control. We always maintain control over the process and the project. It does create local jobs when you're using especially a team that's locally, which is this one is. And then there's payment for performance in there. This just gives you an idea of the difference between the typical timeline, which can be on a CCNA contract can go 27 to 30 months by the time you get through the design, the permitting, and then the whole construction project. By doing all this together at the beginning, you can substantially reduce that timeline with the P3. So the public purpose of the project, what are the benefits of the project to the public? The J.C. Park improvements addresses a lot of the deficiencies that have been identified through the Parks Master Plan. We're going to be replanting native trees, and we're going to have active facilities there. Those were some of the things that were identified in the master plan. We're going to upgrade existing playgrounds and the bathrooms. The youth wanted to have open mic nights, and they wanted to have a cafe within the park. The Parks Master Plan also suggested better water access. We also had the ULI report that we have referenced on numerous occasions. And they had indicated in there that as a waterfront city, there were just a shockingly lack of public places for the citizens to enjoy the water. We have a lot of waterfront property, but it's all private, and J.C. Park is one of the few public waterfront parcels that are available to us. The ULI panel also in their report was very encouraged when they heard about the plans that we had and we're moving forward with on J.C. Park. In fact, they encouraged that we layer all different types of dimensions in that park because of its size. The J.C. Park improvements will bring compliance with the state of Florida's ban on invasive Australian pines, and because we will be removing them from the park, just as we do at our other city properties. This is the public interest determination that the city attorney was talking about. I'm going to read through these quickly just so that we have them read onto the record because they are some of the requirements. The first one is the benefits to the public. The proposed enhancements reflect recommendations made in the Parks Master Plan and the ULI report. These improvements will allow for greater access to J.C. Park and will provide expanded scenic views of the waterfront for the citizenry to enjoy. Additional amenities will be provided, such as a band shell, a food truck court, a refreshment hub, an inclusive playground and splash pad, and covered pavilions and boardwalk. Improvements to ingress and egress will provide safer environment for both vehicle traffic and pedestrians. Environmental enhancements include the removal of invasive exotic trees and restoration of the natural ecosystem of the shoreline. 2, the financial structure of and the economic efficiencies achieved by the proposal. The Fortress proposal and the resulting comprehensive agreement offer the city a path forward for completing the J.C. Park improvements at a lower cost and with reduced risk to the city. Fortress is proposing to deliver the project using a not-to-exceed price delivery method, which shifts risk for cost overruns and construction delays from the city to Fortress. In addition, transferring construction management and administration responsibilities to the Fortress team, which has experience in developing government facilities, will enable the city to complete the project efficiently and timely without compromising quality or safety. 3, the qualifications and experience of the private entity that submitted the proposal and such entity's ability to perform project. I'm not going to read every one of these, but the Fortress proposal does outline the breadth and quality of experience that it has on its team, including highlights of the various park projects that are currently underway and summaries of facilities delivered to various government entities by the Fortress team, which includes improvements to Lashley Park and Marina in Punta Gorda, South County Regional Park in Punta Gorda, Ann and Chuck Deaver Regional Park, Charlotte County, and then there are several other ones on here. The project's compatibility with regional infrastructure plans. Over the past several years, the City of Cape Coral has conducted numerous assessments of its park system and the park systems in the southwest region of Florida. Through these assessments and discussions, the city has concluded that J.C. Park improvements constitute a qualified project consistent with other regional projects and regional infrastructure plans. And then finally, the public comments submitted at the meeting. Over the past 2 years, there has been much discussion about the future of J.C. Park. During city workshops and strategic planning sessions, it was determined J.C. Park was underutilized and in need of site-wide improvements. The plan was to redesign J.C. Park to celebrate majestic waterfront views and enhance amenities to appeal to all Cape Coral citizens. The city hired a consultant to develop a concept for the park and hosted 2 community meetings. The city solicited public feedback via surveys, emails, and regular input at the weekly council meetings. Recurring comments from the public range from do nothing and leave our park alone to some focused on specific amenities. Many of these comments have been addressed publicly and/or individually. The city has specifically addressed a majority of these comments by the action taken to make modifications to the design. These modifications include shade at the park. The city and design team have gone to great lengths to ensure that not only will there ultimately be more tree shade than currently at the park, but several of the amenities will have shade features added to them. The band shell. The P3 group and the city is fully behind the vision of creating a family park. As such, the P3 group and city reduced the footprint of the initial structures and downsized both to accommodate the vision of the community. Sale and consumption of alcohol. The city and concessionaire agreed to a designated concession area with an established perimeter where the sale and consumption of alcohol is permitted at the park. Food trucks. The city and concessionaire agreed to reduce the number of permanent food trucks by 1/3 and ensure all applicable city policies, ordinances, and procedures are followed. Family-friendly. The community wanted a family-friendly park accessible year-round. The city and design team added a splash pad and an inclusive playground with innovative sunshade technology. And pet-friendly, the community asked for pet-friendly components. The design team included pet hydration, drinking fountains, and misting stations. Okay. So now some of the key points of the P3 proposal. It's the proposal to build the phase 1 of the J.C. Park Improvements Project, the landward side. They have a target substantial completion within 14 months of start. There is a not-to-exceed price. The city and the Fortress will share in any cost savings. The proposal also includes private investment. Black Diamond Real Estate is investing almost $1.4 million into the project. The investment team is requesting a separate concessionaires agreement to manage and operate the food truck and the reef. The concessionaire agreement provides revenue sharing opportunity for the city. The P3 team is comprised of local partners. Fortress Secured and Tom Iorosi from Fort Myers, Florida Premier Construction from Charlotte County, ADG Architecture in Fort Myers, and then the Black Diamond Real Estate Group, which is Mike Amato and Stephen Soloway from Cape Coral. This was the original concept way back in January of last year, which has some designs, some squares, some rectangles identifying just exactly what we were at least shooting for. That concept itself was $12 million. The final concept is from $16 to $18 million. And there's, this is, thank you.
Can't help it.
Yeah. The actual project construction, the cost breakdown by category, is the actual project is $13.7 million. With insurance, bonds, permitting, mobilization, and scheduling costs is 1.9. Construction management, contingency, and administration fees, 2.4. So those are the major categories. If we take a look at the actual project construction, the major subcategories, site work, utilities, and pavings, 3.3 million. The amenities, 2.9. Landscaping and irrigation, 2.6. Electrical is 2.2. Overlook and memorial boardwalks, 1.1. Site furnishing, 1 million. All of those big numbers in there for amenities, landscaping and irrigation, electrical, overlook and memorial boardwalk, site furnishings. Those are because we did not do anything on the cheap when it came to J.C. Park. And if you look at the vertical construction below the amenities and site furnishings, the pavilions that we are putting there, $434,000. The restroom, the large restroom that's going to be in the center of the park, $650,000. The band shell, $639,000. The reefs, $900,000. The playgrounds, over $600,000 for the inclusive playgrounds that we're building, and then over $700,000 for the splash pad for the kids. How are we financing this? We have the private donation, the private contribution of $1.4 million, almost. Park impact fees, a tree grant. Parks is covering the North Playground. There's support from Pro Parks, which runs the Sunsplash Water Park. Right now we're looking at an estimated debt funding of $15.7 million. But there's some asterisks down below that I'll get to. So the J.C. Park debt service is currently included in the FY 2025 budget, with annual payments to begin in FY 2026. The city will utilize the commercial paper for any costs we incur in this next upcoming fiscal year in FY 25, and make interest-only payments. The debt service example, we just used the debt service example of $16 million, which is $1.2 million annually. That debt amount is a conservative example only. We do expect that the not-to-exceed amount will be lower after we get to 100% design. Also, additional grants such as those that are listed below, we plan to continue to get those to help reduce the amount of debts that's required. Also, when we issue the annual debt service next year, we do expect that there will be several rate reductions occurring before the city actually has to issue it. Just to give you an idea, even if it were $1.2 million, that basically breaks down to $14.50 per single-family home in Cape Coral per year, or basically $1.20 a month. If you look at each residential unit, if you broke it down even further than that, then you're less than $1 a month for that debt service. The grants below we're still looking at with, we've put applications into the Kiwanis Club, the Better Cities for Pets, and then also to partner with someone to do a grant for the main playground. And again, we will continue to look for grants as we move forward. We're not done yet. So the concessionaires agreement, the main points. The Black Diamond Real Estate, they will operate both the reef and the food court. They're providing the private investment to the project. And they will own and operate 4 of the food trucks. And the other 2 remaining sites will be there for use for special events, if they wanted to have a celebrity food truck come in for whatever purpose that they would like. They intend to host family-oriented events throughout the year. The goal of this partnership is to offer an affordable destination for Cape Coral families, and they also want to give back to the community. So by them owning and operating the food trucks rather than bringing in outside ones, they can control the cost of operations. And by controlling the cost of operations, they can lower the cost to the consumer when they sell the food to them. They have agreed to donate 2% of their net profits to the Guardian Angels for special populations. Their hours of operation are 11 to 9 p.m. daily. They will be closed on specific holidays, and they can have extended hours on special occasions if they get permission from the city manager in advance. With the sale and the consumption of alcohol, I mentioned this just a few minutes ago, because we heard the concerns again of the residents. They were concerned about people just walking around, getting drinks and just wandering around the entire park property drinking. We established a wet zone that's around the perimeter of the concession area. So no alcohol consumption will be permitted outside this zone. The remainder of the park will be a dry zone, so no alcohol will be allowed in the rest of the park. The wet zone area can expand during special events, again, with the approval of the city manager. And when we're looking at, this is the area that we're talking about. This is the concessionaire's agreement. This is their lease area and the wet zone that we're talking about. So when you're looking at some of these pathways that feed off of that, there will be probably signs, there are no alcohol beyond this point, so. Okay. Yeah. So revenue sharing opportunities, and these numbers here are very conservative. We are guaranteed a monthly amount of $6,250 from the concessionaire. Right now, in the gross receipts, the city will receive 4% of the gross receipts up to $500,000, the first 500. Then we will receive 2.5% of the gross receipts over $500,000. The estimated annual revenue from this is about $120,000, and that's based on a $1.5 million in sales. The estimated revenue from the two guest trucks, maybe $350 each on a weekend day. It's about $36,400, and the city will have a 50-50 split on that, so the city would get $18,200. But most important is we don't know how well they're going to do. So what we have done is we've set it up so after 2 years of experience, we will revisit this agreement and look at what the revenues look like and adjust those numbers up. We also have 5 pavilions, and based on some rentals there, we've estimated possibly over $26,000 annually for the rental of the for the pavilions, and then about $1,800 annually for the band shell rental. And these are some suggested rental rates in there. We also will have kiosks available, kiosks at the volleyball courts, the cornholes, lanes, and then also the ping pong tables that we will have there. And we will have kiosks there where people can rent their ping pong paddles, their cornhole bags, or even volleyballs in case they don't bring them with them to the park. So the estimated annual revenue from that and that's a 50-50 share with the vendor, is about $18,720. So right now, the total estimated annual revenue is about $185,000. Again, I think that those numbers are pretty conservative. This just shows you what the kiosks look like that we will have out there. This is the one that's at the cornhole lane. So, all right. So I'm open to questions, but before we had questions, I think that we would do similar to what we did the last time, which was allow the public input. But before we do that, I did want to show the council and the community an updated video of what the park looks like now that we've included some of these amenities that we have promised that we would give to the community. So if I can get one pro to get it started, I'd appreciate that. this is one of those videos, that you watch it more than once, you get to see more things that are in there that you didn't know was in there, so.
Okay, thank you for the presentation. I'll now open up the second and final public hearing. Anyone wishing to speak on Resolution 209-24, please come forward. I think we'll try to utilize both podiums, so maybe if we can get a line in each one, and we'll try to alternate back and forth. I think it may be a little quicker that way.
Kathleen Lopez, Beach Parkway. Just one quick thing. It would have been really nice if that video had been in real scale instead of making the park look like it's huge when it's not. A couple of you in the city council have children enrolled in private or charter schools, and I'm sure that's so you can provide the best education for them so they will succeed in life and learn how to do the right thing. Unfortunately, what you teach does not speak as loudly as what you do. I'm going to tell you a story. After the Cape Coral City Council dishonored the public and all of the veterans by removing the yellow ribbons on Monday, June 30th, from J.C. Park Initiative designed to honor those who had served our country, and which all three news medias had announced would be honorably taken down and donated to a veterans group after the 4th of July. I tried to do something nice for the man who works in our park and keeps it so clean. So I wrote a thank you note, and I handed it to him. Inside the note was a little cash and a note that said, "Take your wife and your daughter to lunch." I did not know that in his position as a city worker, he was not allowed to take any gift from any person. So he immediately turned it into his supervisor, because if he had not reported it, for the first day, he would have lost a day's pay that month. For the second day, he would have lost 2 days' pay and on. But if he didn't report it, he would have lost his job. I got back from my vacation, and he saw me at the park walking, and he told me what happened. He told me if I called the supervisor, I could get my card back. So I went, and I got my card back. But isn't it ironic that as a city maintenance worker, he could be fined for accepting a small gift, but our city council can steal more than 100% pay increase, calling it a stipend with no voter approval. That's some double standard. That's a huge double standard. Is there anyone in this council that has any integrity? What kind of legacy are you leaving to your children and your grandchildren? Focus on fixing the city manager's FEMA problems, which is affecting a majority of citizens in this city. Leave J.C. Park alone. We can save you millions of dollars, because that plan that you just put up there is kicking out all the poor people and middle-class people that are using the park now, so that your rich friends can come and use that park, but the rest of us will not have a park anymore. Thank you.
Thank you. Go ahead, sir.
Good evening, Mayor, City Council members. My name is Mick Sheldrake, member and citizen of the city and kind of active. I represent the Guardian Angels for Special Populations. That organization works with adults with intellectual and physical disabilities. And what I just heard about this plan, we understand in the park redesign, there is a whole bunch of ADA compliant equipment going in. The improvements at J.C. Park would make this the largest ADA and all-inclusive access park between Tampa and Miami, just with the footprint that they just showed. As an advocate for adults with intellectual and physical disabilities, the access and inclusion, we strongly support this. A city of our size, I'm not reading this anymore. A city of this size, you know how many pieces of ADA compliant equipment we have right now? One, and it's broke. I have citizens that go to Naples so that they can take their kids to a park with their other children. That they don't even have a ADA capable bathroom or changing table and a city growing the way we are, this is the best news I've heard in 5 years. I commend you for at least making this inclusion at J.C. Park and in every other park that we can in this city. It's about time we become inclusive for everything this way. Thank you.
Go ahead, ma'am.
My name is Lori Lehman. I live in Cape Coral and have since 2004. I have a couple questions. I went to the Festival Park groundbreaking. Festival Park is 118 acres. J.C. Park is 11 acres. Why do you want to do the same things at Festival Park that you're going to do that you want to do at J.C. Park? The two don't make sense. There's no logic in it. Then also, I have the paperwork from Pannoni. There's a total lack of transparency. Pannoni is saying that there is not 2 phases and that there are no boat slips, yet we were told at the last council meeting and the first public meeting for J.C. Park that the boat slips and the docks were part of phase 2, not part of phase 1. Well, which is it? Are there or are there not? The designer, Pannoni, says no, yet the city says yes, Pannoni says no. Doesn't make sense. And with this idea of the wet zone, who's going to enforce that wet zone is adhered to? Now we're going to have police in the area? Or who is going to make sure that wet area is truly adhered to and it isn't, oh, well, the kids are in the playground and a parent wants to sit and have an alcoholic drink by the playground, which I would imagine would be outside of the, quote, wet zone. And I'd also like to know who in the city is going to, if Fortress is going to have to swallow any cost overruns, I'd like to know who in the city is going to make sure that things are done properly in the park, and to avoid any cost overruns, it's not done like garbage, that the plans are actually adhered to. And I understand something, I don't think they should be done at all at J.C. Park. Renovate, yes, but not remodel completely. Thank you.
Good, ma'am.
Hi, everyone. Dee Clocko, Venetian Court, District 1, which of course is where the park is. And I would like to know, anyone that speaks tonight, please tell me where you live. I mean, District 1, 2, 3, or whatever. It'd be very interesting. And I wonder, we're going to pay $16 million over 20 years, and then we have to pay to play volleyball. This is going to be another one of those pickleball things where it's ridiculous. Why should we pay all this money for 20 years? I won't live that long. Whoever we sell the house to, I suppose, will. But it doesn't make, the whole thing doesn't make sense. I am asking that at least 3 people won't be coming back in November. I am asking, pleading with you to table this for the new board that comes up, the new council. Please table it, and we will continue with this story. It can be improved, it can be nice, it is nice now, but there is no moo cash cow out there. It's us, and we're paying our lawyer, we're paying all the additional money for you guys. Who do you think is paying it? I mean, is it some golden goose somewhere? And it's not wanted, And I wonder about food trucks. I've never eaten at a food truck, so I cook, so what difference does that make? But is it gonna sit there when they're not being used? Are they gonna take them away, or is that gonna be one of our views? The whole thing doesn't make sense. I'm gonna plead with you, please, table this till after November. Thank you.
Good, ma'am.
My name's Julie Harrigan. I just want to say that I'm thankful that I live in America where I have the right to address this body of my elected representatives. It seems the way the media has portrayed this meeting today is that it's just a formality, and it seems that they think your minds are already made up regarding J.C. Park and that you know what's best for us, and I sure hope not. I've lived in Cape Coral since 1985. This city's gone through many changes, some of them good, some of them not so good, and I'm not against change. But J.C. Park and the atmosphere there played a significant part in my life throughout the years. I could pull up right next to the water. I could enjoy the beauty. I could watch the clouds go by serenely. Some people will enjoy just the nature walk, not a concrete walk along the river. Some come there to eat food they pick up on the way, or they fix it themselves. Every now and then, someone brings a guitar and practices. Kids come there to play. People bring their dogs there to walk. And the people walking by each other, they sometimes stop and talk to people that you don't even know. A sense of community is felt in the quiet and the beauty. I can understand why the city wants to make this change, because the park as it currently is doesn't make any money. I think your plans for Festival Park are great. It's going to be a fantastic place, a wonderful park, but you don't need to make a similar replica out of it at J.C. Park. We don't need a band shell there. We don't need food for sale. The boats really don't need to pull up there, and there doesn't need to be a seawall. The riprap there is just fine. And it doesn't need to become this concrete jungle. Can you do some things to improve J.C. Park? Well, sure. The grass parking along the edge by the kids area could be turned into angle parking instead of parallel parking, which make it easier for people to get in and out. The potholes could be fixed. You could do that now. You don't have to wait for $1 million project to do that. The road could be widened because 2 cars can barely pass by each other. You could provide another exit, which I think you're planning to do, but that is badly needed because you have to go in, go all the way to the end, go around the circles all the time, and then come back out, which creates a lot of traffic flow. Another covered area is not bad, pavilion. Planting more trees is not bad. But you don't have to remove what's there to do that, because those trees have been there forever. And yeah, they're invasive, but invasive to who at this point? We're not planting Australian pine trees. I guess that you could use a large portion of that budget for the improvements that you are proposing for Festival Park, and that would help get that moving a lot
Thank you, ma'am.
faster.
Thank you. Your 3 minutes is up. Thank you. No, ma'am, it's 3 minutes. Go ahead, sir. Sure, 1 sentence.
If it ain't broke, don't fix it.
Thank you. Go ahead, sir.
Hello, comrades. I'm called El Cid of Southwest Cape. Who thought, or who asked for J.C. Park to be in partnership to offer affordable destination for Cape Coral families? I just found out what a wet zone was. I didn't know what it was till just found out it's an alcoholic spot we can all drink and just get all wet over there. In all my years, almost 30 years, I never heard of J.C. Park as a destination zone. It's a nowhere zone. I used to live in this area. It's out of the way, surrounded by condos. You have a destination zone in making a roach coach park at Cape Coral Bridge. When there's a major crowd at J.C. Park, like the 4th of July, you cannot go through to get to your residence if you live in River Towers along the 20th place. We own 3 condos there. We sold them. We got out of there. Cars park on both sides of that narrow road. Only 1 vehicle can get through there. No way to pull over to let anyone pass. If an emergency vehicle has to get through, good luck. Estimated 12 million, now 18 million. Why is every time you design a park for sports playgrounds, a pavilion, automatically we have some type of vendor to run it. J.C. Park was done, deal from the beginning. You called for citizens' input. That was a joke. All it caused was a bunch of backlash, people getting kicked out of council, arrested by the Gestapo police because they disagreed or turned their backs on the runaway council. Then later, police chief comes in and gives a lecture on how to act in a meeting. This is not his
Sir,
job. I'm just telling you.
We're just talking about J.C. Park.
Right, this is J.C. Park when these people were here. The things.
It's gotta be on the
All right,
topic of
We
J.C.
should have had a
Park.
social worker here that night giving us a speech.
Yeah.
Comrades, you have the audacity to ask for citizen input, and you just sit there looking bored and disgusted that we have to listen to all the citizens' BS. The so-called rep should be listening to his constituents and helping them and speaking out at council on what the constituents are saying. I never heard anyone come up here saying what a great idea is till tonight, especially if you live in the proximity of that area. I support their brutal effort on trying to keep their park as a neighborhood quiet and tranquil area. These people are trying to maintain and hold. So all this citizen input is a masquerade here. This meeting is what is the greatest minds, thinkers, and leaders are going to tell you what is going to be done. Now just sit there and listen. This has been going on for a long time, and still no one's listening to the citizens. We should hold this off to the new councils getting in. We're getting 4 new ones. Thank you.
Thank you. Good, sir.
My name's Scott Kemp. And with all due respect, Connie Barron misrepresented what's in the ULI report. I know that report backwards and forwards. But it looks like we're going to lose our nice park, community park, to commercialization. And it breaks my heart. When your reef, and that's appropriately named, goes underwater, and when your food truck pads are long since barren because they haven't made any money, we'll be able to plow it all down and spend good money after bad to take up what you've done. But we'll never be able to replace the Australian pine trees. I have said this before, but I'm going to quote again, and I'm quoting the University of Florida research. Australian pines are long favored for use in erosion control. You can look how they've stabilized our bank at J.C. Park. It has the ability to withstand heat and high winds. It can resist many adverse conditions, dry or wet soil, resistance to pests, diseases. It has a high salt tolerance and a high drought tolerance. To sum up, Australian pines, and now this is my summary, are quite possibly the only trees hardy enough to endure our environment without irrigation, soil change, or tree care. In terms of water, they require no irrigation. In terms of money, you don't have to pay to cut them down. In terms of soil, they're growing, they're fine. And in terms of shade, you can't replace it. That video that we just saw is 10 years in the future. I don't know if you noticed those trees. I'll be dead before they're that tall. I'm speaking, don't tell me about the average age of Cape Coral. I'm speaking for people in District 1. I'm speaking for the residents that live around the park, that utilize the park. If you think people are going to go from the Northwest and drive 20 minutes to get to J.C. Park, you're nuts. DoorDash is not thriving because people want to jump in their car.
Thank you, sir. Good, sir.
Good evening. My name is Cody Deem. Despite my relative youth, I've been a resident of Cape Coral for 2 decades. And frankly, I must admit, I'm one of those unfamiliar faces that the gentleman mentioned earlier. My reality is that, my work and college obligations make my dedication to civic discourse and civic discussion very difficult for me to participate in. That being said, I felt the obligation to come here today and speak on this matter for both ethical purposes and to attest to the character of one of the people involved. I think it is important to note that the reality is that Cape Coral is a fast-growing metropolitan area, whether we like it or not. It's reality. And one of the consequences of metropolitan development is sprawl. So if it's going to happen, if it's a foregone conclusion, I think we all ought to agree that the people responsible for that sprawl and for further development ought to be people of the utmost character and integrity. And I could stand here for the next hour, far beyond the time that I've been allotted here today, and I could assure you and attest to the fact that Michael Amato is one of the most honest, conducts himself with the utmost integrity and conducts himself every day as both a member of his community, as a business owner, and as a resident of Cape Coral to the utmost. He has done so for over a decade, has contributed to the lives and the people of this place by both giving jobs to those that need them, opportunities during times when nobody else were giving opportunities, and furthermore, in spite of everything, still, after quasi-retiring from his business, decided, you know what, I want to contribute even more. I thought that, there are few men who care about others as deeply and about his community as deeply as Michael Amato. And that may not mean much coming from me. It might not. Particularly given, the average age of the people in this room, it might not mean a lot coming from a 23-year-old. It might not. That being said, I still feel that there was an ethical and moral obligation for me today to come here and attest to the fact that there are few men in Cape Coral that conduct themselves with the honor and the integrity of Michael Amato. And the one assurance that I can give everybody in this room is this. It's that if there's any person that you allow to develop J.C. Park, I'm happy, and I can assure everyone that there are few others that would do it to the best of their ability, quite like Michael Amato. He has a dedication to his community, his customers when he was a business owner, and to all of his employees for the better part of a decade. And if you give him the opportunity to develop his park, the one thing I can assure everybody in this room is that he will do so to the best of his ability while conducting himself with the utmost honesty and integrity. Thank you.
Go ahead, sir.
Good evening. My name is Donald Hotz of Cape Coral. All these new faces in the room, they're here because it's commercialization. We've been here for a year and a quarter saying that the neighborhood park should remain a neighborhood park. The people that use it every day, I never see any of these people at the park. I'm there every day. I don't see any of you at the park. But a bunch of us use it every day, and you're taking away our park. Now, this commercialization is great. Like was mentioned, Festival Park would be a great place to do it. But not in your neighborhood park at J.C. Park. You got the wrong park. We've been talking to you since May of last year, and you're all supposed to be our representatives. You haven't shown that you care about your constituents. You guys represent me and all the people here, but you haven't said anything. When we came up with 8,000 signatures to stop this project, that's a lot of people. And there's a lot more people. I haven't run into anybody in the city until all of a sudden now that's for this project. I'll take that back. I ran into a handful of people, but I talked to hundreds, or maybe 1,000. And 98% have been against it in my year and a quarter of talking to people. Those of us that go to the park every day want to be able to enjoy the peace and tranquility of the park, the nature, the birds that nest there every year. We've watched it. We see the birds and we see the animals. And we don't want this encroachment at this neighborhood park. This is a amusement park type of situation you're putting together and it's fine, but not for J.C. Park. And that's what we've been telling you guys, and you haven't listened to us. And you guys aren't going to stay in office very long if you stay on this pace, because you're not going to get voted on by all the people that care about J.C. Park. Now, I would say the majority of the people in this room that are for this project hardly ever been to J.C. Park. I haven't noticed any of them around there. So all of a sudden, everybody's for it because there's big commercialization. Well, if you want this commercial project, take it somewhere where it's a proper place.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Yes, sir.
Hi, my name is Jim Boswell. I live in the Southeast Cape. One of the things that I think that has not been properly considered in this is the viability of the J.C. Park upgrade as a public-private partnership. I know that there's been talk given to it, but it's all been described as it will be better because it's faster, it will be better because it's cheaper, private will do a better job. But that's not what the law says, okay? The statute says that a public-private partnership is called for when the need is not wholly satisfied by the existing procurement methods. So basically, there needs to be something about this project that is not within the capacity of Cape Coral to handle, okay? So you need to articulate something that is why this public-private partnership is a benefit versus just going forward as a normal project. Now, the commercial aspect of it is held forward as that component. I'm glad I've got these guys talking. So it's held forward as the component that provides that, okay? But it was stated, it's providing $75,000 a year. That's all that's guaranteed, okay? And that $75,000 is a drop in the bucket of the cost of this project. In addition, it makes this misnomer that they're investing 1.3 or almost $1.4 million. But it quite clearly states in the contract that that's their investment in their own capital that they need to open the concession area. It's literally the food trucks that they're going to provide, and they state that they're going to finance them. So they don't even have skin in the game. Okay? There is no viable commercial aspect to this project that justifies it being a P3. You'd be much better off building it as a normal project and then just entering into a lease agreement with a concessionaire. It makes no sense. I mean, there are other really disturbing things, like the fact that the band shell is included in the concessions scope of area. That, to me, is very disturbing. But frankly, I would walk away from this purely because it doesn't qualify as a P3, and you know there's a ton of resistance to this project. There's likely going to be a legal challenge, and if it doesn't stand on solid ground on the legal challenge, it's just going to be a costly and embarrassing mistake for the council. Thank you.
Thank you. Go ahead, ma'am.
Ann Birchtold, Southwest Cape, down near the Yacht Club, which used to exist. You know, I'm kind of fascinated with this public interest determination and how the public interest was determined. How did you determine that we had interest in this? I remember being at one of the meetings at Macola's, and the citizens were asked for their input, and we were given images of various trees, but there was no images of Australian pines. And so on the back of the cards that we were asked to fill out, we provided responses. But what was really disturbing about that was that when all of those responses were collated, the responses which didn't fit into the tree assignment were actually rolled over as positive responses. So what the data showed is a very, very flawed data set. So there was no actual contemporary constituent data that could be relied upon. And, you know, just as an aside there, we've consulted quite a few environmentalists who agree that many of the trees that you're considering putting in are environmentally not suited for that situation. And it's also intriguing that we are being told. We're being told that we're going to like this. It's kind of like the Communist Manifesto, right? And that this is, right? And that this is going to be, it's literally shoved down our throats. You know, and I look at the other side of the room, which is stacked, obviously, but on Father's Day, I took a drive down through the park. I don't know whether you've ever been through the park on Father's Day. It was full of families, kids playing football, dogs running around. It was so full of families, it was remarkable. So the use of the park is currently widespread, and it's beyond the scope of Cape Coral. It attracts people from all areas. What also I'm kind of concerned about too is that the development is really going to upgrade to significant costs for maintenance. Various aspects that we're going to have, the rentals, the kiosks, the splash pads. Oh, there's one. The splash pads. Can you imagine kids running back and forward through the splash pads? And who's going to sanitize those at the end of the day? Do I want my children, my grandchildren, my nephews, do I want them walking over that and cutting their feet? Probably not. You know, one of the other, this also really is a concern. One of the other speakers previously raised the issue of various groups and individuals going to the park for mental health. So some of these groups are like the Vietnam veterans. They go there for PTSD meetings, the AA meetings, different other various groups. There's a group of widows that meet at the park, and that people just meet there. Are there plans there to resituate those groups, to give them a comparative situation that will fulfill their needs for either AA meetings, PTSD? Have you considered those groups? They're part of the community. Their grandfathers, their mothers and fathers. I think one of the speakers said he was an alcoholic. Good for you for utilising the park, because that's what it's there for.
Thank you. Yes, sir.
Good evening, Mr. Mayor, Council. My name is Charlie Pease, District 5. I want to start tonight by saying that there are many people in this room whom I know and respect. I believe they're good people. I just simply disagree with them on the timing of this project. I believe it is the wrong place at the wrong time for our city. I 100% agree with the ADA compliance things for our playgrounds, right? Let's do that at JC Park. Let's make those great improvements, but we don't need to overhaul the entire park. When it comes to making big decisions in life, especially when you're a leader who's in charge of an entire city, it's okay to change your mind. When I was in business school, I learned about something called a sunk cost fallacy. And I'll read the definition. The phenomenon whereby a person is reluctant to abandon a strategy or course of action because they have invested heavily in it, even when it is clear that abandonment would be more beneficial. When it comes to new information, it's okay to change your mind. I want to take you back to January of 2023. If every one of you knew that the city was going to own the 175-acre historical Cape Coral Country Club property, a blank canvas, in South Cape, only a few miles from JC Park. If you knew that, and you knew this project at JC Park was going to cost you nearly $20 million in debt service, would you have even considered spending that $20 million on JC Park in the middle of a neighborhood on 10 acres? We have 175 acres ready to go. Yes, there needs to be mitigation. Yes, we need to fix some things up there. But that is our Central Park. Again, I respect the people who think that JC Park needs to be overhauled. I have a 7-year-old, right? I love the idea of splash pads and things like that. But we have an opportunity now to put that in our Central Park, our regional park at the Country Club and Palm Tree Boulevard property. It's okay to change your mind. And lastly, do you really want your legacy to be that you put up a construction fence around JC Park in October, just a few weeks before an election, and ripped out all the Australian pines. I don't think that will look good for council. I don't think it will look good for staff. It is okay to change your mind, and I ask that you do that tonight. Thank you very much.
Good, sir. Good, sir.
Anthony Karp, District 1, Cape Coral. I'm here to respectfully request a delay in the redevelopment of J.C. Park, and to have a continuance for any sort of vote today, so that, and I'm also requesting that, since this has been such a hot topic for over a year, that we have a chamber day with all the citizens for and against the redevelopment of J.C. Park, so we can talk this out, and it'll be the citizens with the council and the city managers. The Friends of J.C. Park and the citizens have spoken to the Friends of J.C. Park, and they gave us a request list of what they would like for restoration, as I said before, renovation, revitalization, with enhancements. So there is an additional plan. Now, I come from a big city where when they do big projects like stadiums, parks, or large buildings, they usually come up with several designs. From what we see here, there's only one design, but there is a second design. The citizens of J.C. Park and the city of Cape Coral do have a plan. Now, we're requesting that you sit down, all of you up there, all of you over there, sit down, and all of you over there are welcome. I already walked around with some of the officials, and I explained some of the feedback that we've got from thousands of citizens. Now, we talk about beautification. Yeah, there's beautification on the medians. But you know what? J.C. Park has been neglected for a long time. So that gives you an excuse to use it as a pawn, and the trees as a pawn that are harmless, these Australian pines, to go and destroy them so you can follow through with your plan. Now, I want to remind all these citizens here, like the other man says, we never see you at the park because we're there all the time, okay? So I want to remind them there is a playground there, and it was donated by all the citizens that live there. It was donated there. There's a park for the toddlers, and there's also a park for the grade school kids. Now, there was a certain person that came to the park, one of the council people, with his son, and we asked him, what are you going to do when you come here? There was a big hesitation. We waited. He said, eat. Oh, and what else are you going to do there? Nothing. So what I'm trying to say is let's have a continuance with this. We do have a plan, and I want to remind all these people there that we do have a lot of enhancements. And if you haven't been to the playground, there are bags that you can toss there. And I welcome all of you to sit down and talk with us, and we can come with a compromise here. So let's work on that. Let's have another meeting before we take a vote today to show respect for all the people that have been coming here for over a year now. Thank you.
Thank you. Go ahead, sir.
My name is Anthony Fiala. I'm from District 2. Just coming today, first of all, I wanted to kind of echo, I think he stepped out, but any opportunity for the city to give back to people with disabilities, physical, is huge. I have two siblings, both have cerebral palsy. I think that's awesome to be able to give them opportunities to come out in the community. I think I'm probably going to keep it pretty short here. What I see is the park, well, the city, first of all, we're growing. It doesn't matter how you look at it, whether you like it or you don't, it's growing. Every single person in this room invested in this community by purchasing your homes here. Okay, I moved here 13 years ago to raise my family from kindergarten, and they just started college this year. I look at my home, my community, as not just an investment for me, but something I can pass down to them. Communities all around us are growing. They're doing new creative things. A lot of those things are pulling people from our community to their communities. And I think that's unfortunate. I think that this park is an opportunity for us to see a return on our investment, draw people here, keep people leaving. It's going to grow whether we like it or not. I don't think that we should just shut the doors. I hear people talk about things like, oh, we can't do this there anymore, or we can't do that there anymore. I haven't heard a single thing in any proposal that says anything about you can't walk your dog there anymore. You can't meet with your friend groups anymore. You can't do this, you can't do that. I know the food trucks, concessions are a little bit of a concern. Look at it as an incentive to open up the park to more people. Coming from different sides of the Cape, it's not going to turn into the German American Club at Oktoberfest every single weekend all year round. It's just not going to happen. So, I mean, and if you say, hey, how far are you willing to drive? You don't live in our section of the Cape. I drive to Fort Myers, Naples, Punta Gorda. I can stay closer to home and enjoy things. My kids have used that park since they were young. It's a great thing. And just look at it as a return on investment and a legacy that you can leave to your family, because, you know, as a return on investment. That's all I have.
Thank you. Go ahead, ma'am. Go ahead.
Good evening. My name is Carrie Lerner. My family first moved here in 1973. I moved away for a while and returned home 5 years ago. I would like to agree with the woman earlier who stated that the recommendation that this proposal be tabled until we have the new city council coming forward. I would think in your statements in the past, I've heard from this body statements to the effect of, well, everyone who disagrees isn't here and who agrees with what we're doing. I think that the results of yesterday's primary election, these are the voters from the city of Cape Coral, should send a clear message to those of you on the council that we are not happy with the job that you're doing, that you are not listening to the residents of the city. You destroyed the yacht club. You want to, and I have no trouble, like many have said before, yes, improvements are needed. There's a lot that can be done. But we, in an economically challenging time for many, many, many of your constituents, when they're facing the highest rate of insurance that they've ever had to face, where I'm a realtor, people are leaving town because they can't afford to live here. You want to add an additional burden over 20 years, an additional cost, without any guarantee that money is going to be returned upon. I think it is irresponsible to proceed. And again, I would request with others that this motion be tabled so that the new council that comes after the election in November can go forward with the decision-making process. Thank you.
Yes, sir.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. Joe Kilrain, District 5. I echo comments from several previous speakers. I can assure you that when the new council comes in, District 5, in like-minded people, will be voting to delay this project and will vote to do it in a manner that's done properly. And I can assure you that. Just a couple points about the project. First of all, I too believe that the premise that this is at a process which the city cannot do itself, and the reason why we're using the P3, I see it as a normal project. I don't see the advantages of a P3 coming in and being able to provide some service or accelerant of that service that improves the way that the city might be able to do it. In fact, I took a look at the contract for Fortress, and just a couple key points. Currently, that project is at 30% completion, the Sofarelli engineering part of it. The Pannoni is at 75% completion. Yet we're guaranteeing a lump sum payment not to exceed. How do you do that on less than 100% scope? I question as to why, and if the scope is not all that detailed as is commented on here, it's not a sophisticated scope in being vertical buildings, why is it that we don't have all that engineering completed and lock into, based on the scope, a true number? We really don't know what that number is. If you look at the way that it's constructed, there are contingencies in it, and there's ability to force fit the project scope to the dollars. That's backwards from the way I'm used to doing projects. You define the scope, you define the cost, and then you work to whittle that down. You don't lump sum it and then back into it based on changing scope. So you need the concept up front. That's a good reason why we can't really get a yes answer tonight. And I would echo what another speaker had said. You have the opportunity to change your mind today. There's a negotiating technique that says that when you're in a process of a negotiation, one of the key traps in a negotiation is getting you to invest your time and effort in that process. So you're working toward a positive outcome. You don't have to do that in this case. And I'll tell you, you're going to subject this city to additional costs, because I think when a new council comes in, there's going to be a lot of issues around this from a contractual standpoint that we may be in a breach situation. I'm a new business developer guy. I love the AD part of the process, but we need to make it right. We have the time to do it. Thank you.
Go ahead, ma'am.
Hello, my name is Francine. I live in the Cape. I'm going to make a couple of comments and I'll be done. Why can't the city of Cape Coral city council leave J.C. Park alone and put the money where the golf course is? I mean, they could put the same thing there. And the council member said we need change. Change in J.C. Park is a change for the worse for the city of Cape Coral. And this is the first time that I've been here that all these people, how would you say it, like wanna change J.C. Park. This is all, I don't understand what I'm trying to say, but more people here now that want the changes in J.C. Park. That's it.
Thank you. Go ahead, ma'am.
Hello, Christina, resident of Cape Coral for about 13 years. Surprised by how much opposition there is to J.C. Park, because I think the number one reason for it is it's called destruction of J.C. Park, or it will be taken away from them. I don't think anybody's trying to take away J.C. Park. I've been there a couple of times with my kids and never came back because it's outdated. In the last couple of years, I have little kids. In the last couple of years, Cape Coral has done a great job of adding amazing parks to our city. And we visit them a lot, and J.C. Park is not on that level. And it's just not a park that my friends or I have ever gone back to. I understand some people enjoy it as it is, and I think that's great. And I think with all these improvements, it will still be able to be enjoyed in that way. Cape Coral, for young families, is lacking things to do, especially with young kids, that they enjoy and that parents enjoy, because we're still people, even though we're parents of little kids. And, you know, when this came about, me and my friends were excited about it, because yes, some things will change, but there's room for everything that's being enjoyed there now, and also room for a place where a family can hold a birthday party for their toddler, a place where young moms can meet with their young kids and catch up while the kids play in the playground and maybe enjoy a cup of coffee or a glass of wine. Because without a playground, kids are hard to contain. You know, and a place where a youth baseball team can meet after the games for lunch, and parents can talk to each other and enjoy each other's company and build a community that's needed when you're a young parent while their kids play on this amazing playground that I'm just glad that our city can think of such a thing. So I'm asking and I'm hoping that our city council members continue seeing the desperate need for these things in Cape Coral and vote yes to help Cape Coral progress and evolve for the young families that live here now. Because I know one day, much sooner than I would like, my kids will grow up and they will probably want to leave and go somewhere else. But I'm hoping that they'll be able to say, man, Cape Coral was a great place to grow up. One day I want to come back and raise my own kids there too. So I hope that, that's something you guys consider when you vote tonight. Thank you.
Thank you. Ed, sir.
Greg Hammonds. So first thing I want to say is, like, if you move to a city and you can't afford it, then you didn't do your due diligence and you didn't plan well. You didn't actually look at it. Now, if you bought a house for $100,000 here and things are expensive, then it's time to sell if you can't afford it. That's just life. I don't know what to say. I might not be here forever. I don't know. We moved here 4 years ago from Indiana. It's very expensive. It's 3 times as expensive, but we found a way to make it happen. So if you can't afford it, it's time to move. I don't know what to say. Like, that's just a financial decision that people have to make. Second of all, we're comparing humans to trees. ADA versus trees. Cut the trees down. They're a nuisance. They're invasive. Put new trees there. Put new shrubs there. That's what the mentality has to be. They don't want to put a single dollar into relocating them. Buy them a shovel. Let them dig them up. There's 8,000 people. I put my trampoline in myself with one shovel when I lived in Indiana, dug the hole. 8,000 people, 8,000 shovels. Put it in the budget. Give them a shovel. Dig up the trees, put them in the yard. Get a permit, put the trees in their yard. I mean, seriously, that's what makes sense to me. I don't know. That's my way of thinking. I could be off, but that's the way I think.
No problem. Good for you.
Okay? So there's a couple points that have to be made there. So stop with the trees and think about the humans that have disabilities.
That's who we are.
We need things here that have disabilities. Sorry. Okay. Apologize. All right. So that's what's needed to take place here. Again, was what someone else said, that there's nothing saying that you can't enjoy this park anymore. You can enjoy it. Someone said, well, we're kicking out the poor people and making the rich people come here. Who's saying that? That's a fallacy. None of that's true. You don't have to have money. Do you have to have money to walk in the park? How much does it cost? Okay, you pay that little due, and now you're in the park. I don't know. That seems pretty simple to me. As far as the logistics of it, yeah, there's a lot of things that need to go into that. I get it. But we drive everywhere to go to different places, like the other gentleman said. Now, back to the guy that spoke earlier, that was an ex-Marine, or not ex-Marine, retired Marine, retired police officer, and retired worker with the city. I respect him greatly. And if that guy wants to go walk at a different park, I'll walk with him. Okay, honestly. And I understand, like, I'm being very impersonable with some of these things because I just make decisions based on what makes sense. And again, so I come off very strong, so I do apologize for that, because I understand there's emotional attachments to this to a lot of people, so I do step back and digress slightly. But at the same time, I think we should consider these things with a little more understanding of what makes sense for the human race. The trees aren't going to hold in the water or whatever was being said about the soil in this. Concrete does. And if anybody's willing to go without the engineering of AC, anybody willing to go without AC, that's engineering. We have to keep engineering and building. Thank you.
Go ahead.
Sir, you can't speak. You've already spoken.
Wait, could I just say something, please?
No, sir.
We have a Purple Heart veteran here.
Oh.
And he would like to get up and speak, so I'm trying to give him some assistance. Is that okay?
Sure.
Are you saying I can't speak?
No, sir, you can go ahead and he can help him get up to the podium.
Can I bring the
I
microphone?
want to let him,
May I bring the microphone?
the
to-
gentleman
Sure,
can't get up.
sure, he can
So
speak right
I
there.
want to let him speak, and then I'll speak.
Okay, sounds
But I thought
great.
you were telling me I can't speak,
Nah.
because after that, I got to.
Okay, I'd like to introduce Jim Cavana, a veteran and a disabled veteran that uses J.C. Park frequently, and I'm going to pass the mic over to him. And you can't stand up because he has an aesthesis. So.
My name is James Cavana. I lived in Cape Coral since 1983. I moved here, and I've been deployed in the Kuwait War for 6 years. When I came back, J.C. Park was nothing but the savior for me with my PTSD, and it helped me resolve a lot of issues, and it let me put a lot of things behind me. It allowed me to teach my children a place to walk and a place for myself to teach myself how to walk. As far as the trees, they're not hurting anything. They're just there. They do no damage to the environment. They help the environment. So why destroy it and take it down? That's all I got to say.
That's all you have to say. Thank you.
Thank you. Go ahead, sir.
I'm still Dave Kalish. I was earlier, I'll be them again. The first thing I want to say is, it's amazing how all these people have joined the meeting here, okay? We've been here for a year and a half discussing a lot of these issues. J.C. Park has been one of them, okay? Because you guys have given us a lot of issues to be able to discuss, because there's so much lack of communication and deception and corruptness, so we have a lot to talk about. But I want to also talk about the fact that I'm guessing the P3 people brought these people in to talk about it. There were some things said about the trees and the human being. We're not knocking human beings, okay? And we're not knocking progress, okay? But you have an area where that's filled with condos of elderly people. And what it's going to do for them, I don't think they're not going to be able to sell. They're going to have to give their condos away. They won't even be able to sell them. It's going to be that bad. We've been coming here for over a year, same thing every time we come up here. And like I said, I got to keep it reiterating. Now we have all these people here to fight us. It doesn't matter, okay? Because you guys are going to do whatever you want, no matter what we come here and we say to you. Because that's what you've done all along. And I promise, like I've told you before, as sure as I am standing here, I'll be left here, you guys won't. Because you don't deserve to be. Because you don't care about the people. And this isn't right. How many people live by the park? How many of you? You all live by the park in one of them condos.
Sir, just
Okay. Sir, yes, sir.
just make your comments to council, please.
Okay, I'll be glad to. One of the members of the council told us something, and I didn't forget it, I remembered it. He said, I'll be very honest with you. No matter what you do, this J.C. Park we're gonna do what we're gonna do no matter what you people say. And if you think about it, as a city, that's a horrible thought. It really, really is. When people are concerned and people actually care, and people come up here and talk from the heart, and then you have other people come up here and give a totally different perspective. Why, I don't know, okay? That they've never been here before, so they've never really gone through the year and a half of what we've gone through. Maybe they'd feel a little bit more like we do. I don't know. It's not us against them. I don't mean it that way. And I feel like we've been put in that position. But there's so many other things. Make interest payments only? Are you kidding me? Does anybody think that makes sense? I'm running out of time.
Thank you, sir. Good, sir.
Hi, Jeff, District 5, in your district there, Bob. I use J.C. Park a lot. I'm a veteran. I go down there, I meditate, I relax. The trees there, it's a beautiful area, but what concerns me the most is if we're gonna change the park, are we gonna change the directions of how people are gonna get in and out of that park? Because Beach Parkway is one way in, one way out. If we have a fire, the River Tower condos, while we're having a party at the pavilion, I mean, that's really gonna create some problems for our emergency and first responders trying to access that, or heaven forbid, what if these women break a hip? They live around the corner. I mean, we're still gonna have that problem of traffic. I mean, I'm sure you guys are all smart individuals. John, can I have your attention? John.
I'm taking notes if you don't
Sorry,
mind.
sir, I apologize. But it's just a simple thing. I mean, it's only one way in, one way out. I apologize. I didn't mean to be disrespectful, Mr. Mayor. It's a beautiful park. Like the gentleman said, we have a centralized park here in the Cape. We can beautify that. A lot of people are upset with with J.C. Park changing. I think it's something we should just keep as is. But you guys, as he said, probably going to do what you want, but this is my feeling.
Thank you. Ed, ma'am.
Hi, Teresa Katz. I live on Beach Parkway, and my view every day is of looking over J.C. Park. I will tell you that I built my house in Cape Coral in 1985 in the North Cape.
My children have grown up here. I've lived here. I've worked here. I sold my house and I moved to South Cape because of the peace and the quiet. When I seen the condo, I knew it was where I wanted to be. I walk that park at least 2 times, if not 3 times a day. I can tell you in my 3 years of living there what goes on in that park, who goes to that park. There are families that are there on the weekends having birthday parties. Most every morning you will see all of us that live around J.C. Park walking their dogs or just walking and socializing. I'm not against improvements to J.C. Park. I believe that the park does need improvements. I believe that the sidewalks are cracked. They need to be replaced. I'm fine with updating the playground. I'm okay with the splash pad for the kids. What I'm not okay with is the fact that you want to put alcohol in my front yard. I don't agree with the whole serving alcohol there. I can understand if it's an event that's going on or a concert in the park that you be able to let people sell alcohol like you do at bike night, but to have a continual place of every day that somebody can go there and buy alcohol is just totally uncalled for in that particular area. To the mother who says that she wants to be able to go have a drink of wine with her friends while she's at the park, I don't think I would be drinking and driving with my kids in the car personally. I don't think it is a place to have alcohol in the park. So that is my take on it. I do, once again, say that there are improvements that need to be made, but that's not one of them. Thank you.
Thank you. Yes, sir.
Al Weiler. I live on Beach Parkway for 30 years, and you people do not talk about the street going to the park or the sidewalks going to the park because they're cracked, and I was up here a couple times. Did get the city to fix some of the sidewalks because I put red cones out there. And the potholes on the street, I go up to city garage, pick the cones up, mark them, and then I call up the Citizens Action Committee. And they do come down and fix them after a while. So I didn't know you'd ever talk about you always talk about the park, but you never talk about how to get to the park and the sidewalks that people walk on. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Hi, I'm Kathy. I'm Al's neighbor. I live on Beach Parkway also. And all you young people, I appreciate what you're saying. One day you'll be old like us. No, I'm looking at everybody. I'm looking at all the young people. And time goes by so fast. And when we moved here on Beach Parkway, we found that we were living amongst other older people and that we had this beautiful park to go and interact with older people. Not that younger aren't welcome, because they are. We see them there all the time. We see them having birthday parties, baby showers. I go there for sunrise service every Easter. We love the park, and my fear, we didn't need a facelift, we just needed a little makeover. Put in more playgrounds, put in more jungle gyms, sandboxes, but to go to this extreme of this much money just seems crazy. I would hope that the people would find that just improving what we have now, adding more trees, adding more grills. People come and they pack picnic baskets like they used to when us old people were kids and our parents took us to the park. And all we had was a swing and maybe a mitt and a glove to throw back and forth. But we've grown old now and we like it quiet. And we moved into a quiet area. If you take a census of the ages, I have to guess that everybody is an average of 75, 80 years old. I'm in my 70s myself. My biggest fear, though, is Beach Parkway, the road. Our peninsula has been maintained and paid for and taken care of by our Peninsula Beach Parkway Committee for years. We all, every association donates to maintain that, do new plantings, and for some ungodly reason, if this goes off the track, I can see you wanting to take out our peninsula and make it 2 lanes going in and out. And it's not about the people. We want it for everybody. We're old people. We love seeing kids. We love seeing little kids. Not all of us get to see our grandkids. And if we can watch your kids play, we're happy. But give us old people still the respect of our last days. We don't know how long we're going to be here. We're at the end of our journey. But when we leave, it'll be your journey. Thank you.
Thank you. Ed, ma'am.
Good evening, Council. My name is Colleen Hines. I live in the Northwest Cape. I've been up here in front of you before. I agree with the idea of tabling this until the new council because you guys aren't going to be here. And if you keep this up, none of you are going to be here. And as far as I'm concerned, I'm looking at 13 million, 16 million to do J.C. Park. Okay, that's one park. Then you got the golf course. How many million are you going to put on our backs for that? And you also have this new festival park. Hey, families and houses are going to be built around up there. Those are areas that are big enough to carry the stuff you want to do. Not 10 acres. I lived on 10 acres in Michigan. I lived on 80 acres in Michigan. I lived on 145 acres in Michigan. And 10 acres for everything you want to do is just too much stuff. And that video, it is maybe 10, 15 years out. It's not going to be when the park opens. Why not leave the Australian pines there until those trees get bigger so that there's a continuity of shade? Don't just tear it all out. And the only reason these are an invasive species is because you want to do a total renovation. If you do a dusting and cleaning and a repair and an upgrade, you're not going to have to tear out those trees. Put in more trees. Trees are going to die. Those trees have been there longer than any of us, I am pretty sure, or pretty damn close, because I'm 72. And those trees, mister, with the wants to give people shovels, they can't be moved. They only can be cut down because those roots go all through that park, keeping those trees alive. And you can't take them out. I'd love to have one of those trees in my yard, but it can't be done. My son is an arborist, and he knows, and he's been there, and he's told me, those trees can't be moved. They're healthy, and they're fine, and leave them alone. And you are going to be putting this bill on our backs, you're going to be putting that golf course improvement on our backs, and you're also putting the festival park on our backs. And that is not right.
Good, ma'am.
I'm Erin. I've lived here for 9 years. Most of my adult life's been spent in Southwest Florida. I want to first commend you all for coming every Wednesday because this is a lot in person. As far as us not coming every Wednesday, most of us are still working. Most of us got out of our jobs early today to get here, okay? And we have been to J.C. Park. We bring our kids to J.C. Park. We also bring our kids other parks. J.C. Park does need a facelift. And God forbid we want a glass of wine after spending a whole week working and going out with our children. We're allowed that. You're allowed that. You're allowed to go to Applebee's and drink with your children as well. These are silly things. I think we all need to get on board that we're not trying to take away your park. We want you to go walk in the morning. We want to hang out with you guys as well. We want our parents to come go to the park with our children. We want this to be a place that everybody goes to. We don't want this to be a park that just us with kids go to, but we also don't want it to be a park that just the older people go to. This isn't about separation. This is about bringing people together. This is about bringing the old to the young and everything in between. Our kids can't play in the yard. Your kids could go out and play. My kids can't go play in the yard. How many kids have gotten hit in the streets of Cape Coral? It's a whole different topic. My kids can't go play. Okay? So we would like someplace that we can go sit down, enjoy a meal, spend time as a family, get our kids away from their video games, get them, screen time. All of us, most of these people here have two parents that are outside the house working all the time. We have to. We love it here. But it takes two people working to afford to live here. So we would like somewhere to go as a family. We would like somewhere to go outside. We would like to enjoy it. We enjoy the outside just as much as you all. We just don't have the time. You talk about walking in the park. We're getting our kids ready for school. So yeah, most of our time is spent on the weekends there. So I just want us to think of this as a whole community, not old versus young, Southwest Cape versus Northwest Cape. We drive across the bridge every weekend to take our kids to birthday parties. There's nowhere to have a birthday party here at Cape Coral, let's be honest. We go to Sky Zone. We drive across the bridge every weekend for birthday parties. It would be awesome to be able to bring our kids somewhere, have a birthday party, all be together. Thanks.
Ma'am, you will be the last speaker. We're well over the hour.
Okay, I'll make it
I know
fast.
the city clerk probably
I'm not to talk?
sent me a message about 15 minutes ago, but you'll be the last speaker.
Okay. I'm going to answer their question. You want JC Park? You can have JC Park. We have lots of condos for sale. You guys need to move there, okay? I'll be the first one to sell to you. Because you are so great. My condo's up for sale. Any of you come and buy it. Another thing, birthday parties are there every week. Quinceañeras are there every week. Everything happens there every week. What you guys are doing, you're gerrymandering the park. They can afford it. There's a lot of people that use that park now that won't be able to afford what you're doing. So what you're doing is rich versus poor. And I have pictures, and I have a lot of stuff that goes on in that park that you're going to do away with. So don't shake your head, because I get my feelings hurt too, just like you guys get your feelings hurt every time you hear something you don't want to hear. But you know what? Like I said, you want to park? Be my guest. No, you have to move there.
Ma'am, you have to address council. This isn't an open discussion.
Fine. Well, you can buy my condo.
Thank you. All right, that was the last speaker. Before I turn it over to council, I'm going to turn it back over to staff and the city attorney if they have any follow-up comments before I turn it over to council for a discussion. So with that, Mr. City Attorney, I guess we'll start with you. Do you have any comments?
No, I don't have any comments unless there's any questions regarding, I will make one comment. There was an individual that talked about the requirements of the public-private proposal. That was not accurate. That is not the requirement of the statutory provision set forth within the factor, so I don't want there to be any understanding that that is statutorily accurate. He was, in fact, inaccurate. We have delineated the factors that are required to be considered. That is all that is required of this council, is to consider those factors. As part of this resolution, whether it's denied or whether that's approved, the resolution itself does in fact address those factors that were considered, and they are set forth within this document one way or the other if it is approved. So with that, I'll certainly address any legal questions regarding the process.
Thank you. Madam Assistant City Manager?
Yes, thank you, Mayor. There were some comments I did want to address and clarify. I wanted to start out, first of all, with the comment regarding Pannoni, and Pannoni saying there was only one phase and not two phases. The speaker is referring to the application that was filed with the South Florida Water Management District for the stormwater permit. When they initially met with the South Florida Water Management District, and that was city staff and Pannoni, they generally had a discussion about the concept. And the concept that the South Florida Water Management District saw at that time included the boat slips. when Pannoni submitted the application for the permit, it only included the Phase 1. So there was some confusion, I think, there with regard between South Florida Water Management District and then what Pannoni had submitted. There were a lot of questions in their first review of the information and request for additional information. There were a lot of questions about the boat slips. What about this? What about that? And it's this project being done in phases. And what we had to do is they had to follow up with the South Florida Water Management District to explain to them that there are 2 phases to the project. There's a Phase 1 for the landward and the Phase 2 with the boat slips, which is not coming forward yet until we further discuss that with council and get council direction on that. So it wasn't that Pannoni was saying that there's no Phase 2 for the boat slips. What they were saying that with the application that they submitted, that application was just 1 phase and just for the landward side only. With regard to the wet zone and who polices that, the wet zone will be policed by the concessionaire. There was some question about who would be involved with the oversight of the project. The city will have oversight of the project to ensure that it is built according to the specs. Pannoni will also be involved, providing some oversight as well. So it's not that we just say, here you go, developer, just build it and we'll check in with you when you're done. We have to be involved with it from the beginning. There was a comment about people that would have to, that you'd have to pay to play volleyball or cornhole or the ping pong. You do not have to pay to play. You can bring your own volleyball and play. You can bring your own cornhole bags and play. You can bring your own ping pong paddles and ping pong balls and play. What we're saying is we are providing an opportunity for those who show up there and maybe didn't think about that they might want to play cornhole and they don't have cornhole bags with them, that they have the opportunity to rent those from a kiosk. Same thing with a volleyball and the same thing with the ping pong paddles. So there's not going to be any charge to play. One speaker said something about the $1.4 million of private investment and indicated that he believed that that money was going to be used to pay for the trucks and for the building of the reef. The $1.4 million goes directly to the city. It does not, and the city is not building or buying or doing anything with the food trucks. That $1.4 million, according to the concessionaire's agreement, will become due to the city within 60 days after the agreements are executed. So that money goes to the city. So it's an investment in the project that the city has. We heard some comments, some concerns about the size of the trees. As we had done earlier, we did a shade study at the request of council, a council member, to show what the shade trees, what the trees would look like, and how much shade they would provide on day one of construction, and then what they would be providing within 5 years. And we showed at that time that the shade that would be produced within 5 years would be more than what the current shade is at the park. And the reason is because we're not planting a bunch of twigs out there. We are planting some trees that are anywhere from 11 to 14 to 20 to 25 feet tall. So we are going to have some tall trees. That's one of the reasons why you have a $2.6 million landscaping and irrigation cost associated with this project, because we are installing bigger trees. The traffic, we did a traffic study on this immediately when we started talking about the project, and an evaluation of the traffic there. Beach Parkway currently is far from being at the maximum daily allowance for cars. So even with the amenities that we were proposing, there's still plenty of capacity on Beach Parkway for the expected visitation from the amenities that we are installing there. So those are the ones that I had written down. If you have any more that you'd like for me to address, I can do that as well.
Thank you. Before I turn it over to council, Mr. City Manager, you have any comments?
I have none.
Thank you, sir. I'll go ahead and open up for any council discussion on this topic or any of the citizens' input? Councilmember Shepherd.
I would just like to say that I was elected to represent all citizens of Cape Coral. And that includes the children, and that includes people that live in the most northern part of the city, people that live in the most southern part of the city, and people all throughout the city. They want a destination where they can bring their family that is on the water, that's waterfront. I keep hearing there's other places. Now, we need more waterfront places so that everyone that lives in our city can enjoy the waterfront, like a lot of you have expressed. I understand a lot of you are passionate about your park, and I get it, and you're passionate about the history. I have a lot of history here, too. I've watched things change in the city. Casey's River Stop, you know, I used to bring my children there. That's no longer there. It's past history. But using hate as an influencing tool, it's not good for our community. And it only produces more hate. When I look at this agreement and the people involved, they're bringing love to the community. They're offering to help the special needs people in our community and the children in our community. I just don't get it. We all have to learn to share. We really do. I can tell you, because of the design of our city that being pre-plotted, that every neighborhood is going to be affected in some way of some impacts as we grow. There are houses that have the impact of having a new firehouse right next door. And say, oh, where did my peace and quiet go? I have to hear a fire truck leave every time someone needs service. You know, I've witnessed other parks that are complete, that are in similar situations as yours, where when that park, after it was redone, all of a sudden the parking lot's full every day. What did that prove? That proved that there was a need. As a council member here for almost 4 years now, I'm hearing from all these people that we need destinations, we need a place to bring our children, and we need places to go. And it's our job to create them. And you know, I heard the remark of it's going to drive the poor people away. It's a park. It's open to everyone. And everyone that says they go there for whatever situation it was, if it's for counseling or their group or prayer meeting or whatever it is, all that is still welcome. And I'm sorry, the video we just watched is unbelievable. It's going to be a beautiful place. And I can tell all of you, even at home watching, if you live near that park, you're going to have tremendous equity added to your investment when that park is completed. And I'll say one more thing. There are children watching. There were children sitting here that witnessed what I witnessed, and it's a shame. And I hope they don't remember the hate that has been pushed in our community. This is for the community as a whole. And that is my job. That is my job, to look out for the community as a whole. I represent everyone. Every adult in the city, every child, every person that has a special need, whether it be adult or child. It's my responsibility, and I will do what I'm responsible to do as long as I'm sitting up here. And like I said, that video is beautiful. I can only thank staff for the great job they did with the plans. The other thing that's very disheartening is we listen to the group. They keep saying we don't listen. The plan has been altered. We have done everything to give the speakers what they wanted: more trees, more of the things that they wanted to make the experience that much better. I think we've exhausted every avenue to try to make everyone happy, and I think this is going to be a beautiful asset to our community, and I'm going to be voting yes. Thank you.
Councilmember Steinke.
Thank you. I can only disagree with one thing that Councilmember Shepherd said, and that is an effort to please everyone. Impossible. We'll never do it. And it makes sitting in this chair a very, very, very tough role. 4 years ago, when I was in the same position as a couple of our speakers as a candidate for election, I got asked 3 questions. Are you Republican or Democrat? Will you fire the city manager? And will you remove the Chiquita lock? And that was the only requirement to be elected in those people's eyes. The job is much bigger than that. And there are many things that hinge on the other. And trust that it's been said that why can't you just leave it alone? That'd have been really, really easy. And we would have just been done with it at that point. But we knew that there were the feelings that have been expressed here tonight and that were expressed here a couple weeks ago with total disrespect, that there was another opinion other than just leave it alone. And like my fellow council member said, we're here to represent everyone. And so to hear you're not listening to us, what's not understood is the us is a bigger number of people. And then we've got 220,000 people to listen to. And some of them don't want to come and subject themselves to what has been seen and heard the last couple meetings here when someone did come and share their opinion that was on the positive side of this issue. There's an old saying that even a dead fish can swim with the stream. And our job is to swim against the stream sometimes when that happens. And so to hear terms like destroy, eliminate, those are all subjective words. There's people that have different definitions of destroy. There's some people that think the park is destroyed as it is. I'm not saying I agree with them. I'm just saying that there's always different opinions. And it's our job to listen to all of them. And so it's easy to take a position when you're running for a seat that you think is the most popular position that might garner the votes. Well, I didn't run to answer questions and to vote ways that I thought that I would get votes again. I felt it was my job to sit and consider as many opinions, as many perspectives, and evaluate things as objectively as I possibly could. And I have done the best job that I can of doing that up until now. And I plan on doing that for the next 2 years, whether I would get reelected if I ran again or not. So as we've evaluated this along the way, at least as I've evaluated it along the way, I'll just speak for myself, all of the feedback that we've gotten, other than do nothing, I have always been heavily vested in trying to do something about. More shade, less concrete. Moving the trees off of the river to allow afternoon shade that can be enjoyed rather than the shade being in the water. Other forms of shade other than trees where we can use those. And yes, refreshments to be enjoyed while you're there. I've never been in favor of eliminating the opportunity for people to enjoy the park for free, and won't as long as I sit in this seat. All the things that are enjoyed for free today need to be enjoyed for free in the future. Additional amenities, if I don't bring my ping pong paddle, I'd like an ability to get a ping pong paddle and play while I'm there. Next time I'll bring my own ping pong paddle. But at least I get to play while I'm there that time, should I choose to. But it's not scaring away the poor people. So for me, I believe a number of things that have been said. I believe we have people full of heart that are involved in this project to try to continue to have the amenities that are there today and even enhance the ones that are there today by making them nicer. And I believe the additional amenities will allow people to enjoy the park today that have not been able to enjoy the park up until today. And those people are the ones that these decisions are being made for, where there's not a loss, there's just an actual gain of the number of citizens that can enjoy a waterfront park, of which we have very few. So I will be in support of it as well.
Councilmember Park?
Thank you, Mayor. I just want to thank everybody that came tonight to make this decision even harder than it already was. As far as the comment about change your mind, I've changed my mind countless times over the last 10 months or 8 months since I've been in this seat with regard to this project alone. And I think that's important because that means I'm doing what I'm supposed to be doing, and that is assessing the project from every angle. Being at somewhat of a disadvantage, I wasn't here in the beginning of the project. So I had to go back and look at it, through written material, through conversations with staff, through conversations with the public, on both sides. And you're right, a lot of these other positive opinions are not heard here every meeting, but they're heard by us. So it is contemplated by me anyway, and I'm sure by other council members, both sides of this issue. So when that happens, and you have passion on both sides, some more than others, I can understand that, I can respect that. I think some of it's unfortunate, I think it goes a little too far, but I'm not here to judge that either. I'm here to look at this project as objectively as I can, and try to approach my decision-making the way I do all the decisions that I make, and that is the greatest benefit to our city and its residents. And I've struggled with that decision for lots of reasons, mainly because our staff has been so responsive to the input from the citizens, from the city council, to try to mitigate the concerns that have been raised. Some of these issues are not mitigated to the extent that I like. And one of the big ones for me is the parking. We've talked very little about it tonight, but I know the Assistant City Manager and I have spoken about this at length, and there has not been an answer that is adequate, for me at least, that would satisfy the needs of a successful park the way that we're bringing it forward with the concession element and the food truck element. I think absent that, I think there's plenty of parking, right? I don't think we're going to, unless we have a special event, which is always going to be an issue regardless. But day to day, what I don't want to see is a 7-day-a-week parking problem, or even a 3-day-a-week parking problem on the weekend when we have excessive traffic there. That's a major concern for me. I think the impact on a neighborhood is significant enough that it would detract greatly from your quality of life, and that's what I look at. A lot of the other elements have been overcome. I think, secondly, the concessionaire that's brought this forward, I overheard some conversations he had from the public. I've never met this gentleman prior. I haven't met him still, quite frankly. I think he's probably the best, or they are the best concessionaires we could have ever asked for to bring this forward. If it's approved, I think they are the perfect people to bring it forward and to operate it in a way that's respectful to the community and that is professionally done and takes everyone's concerns to heart. I've tried to narrow my focus down to the decision I'm making here, and I'm trying to limit it to two things. The parking was a big factor, and also the financial side. I was hoping for a better financial benefit to our city that would help me, again, that's part of the decision making. It's not just, the amenities itself. But if we're going to bring in a P3, what's the financial benefit to the city if we do that? $185,000, even if it's conservative, is significantly less than the burden of the carrying cost of the loan. You know, 1.2 million is what the number has been told, and that's at an $18 million figure that we're talking about with actually it's 15.7 would be the finance number, if I'm correct on that. If I'm wrong, somebody can correct me, but it's 15.7 financed with a $1.2 million annual carrying cost. So $185,000 to mitigate or lessen that impact is not enough for me. I do think the changes to the park, a lot of the changes to the park are necessary. I think a lot of the changes to the park are fantastic. The one thing that I think detracts from it, I think overall, is the food truck park and the bistro. I think those two things, with the parking issues that it could create, are significant enough for me that I probably don't want to support this program or this plan moving forward as it sits today. Unfortunately, those trees have to go. I mean, even if we were to stop a portion of this park and do what, you know, I like the video. I wish I would have seen it before tonight to be able to evaluate it a little further. But there's no I mean, that park, if it's developed in the manner in which we're talking about tonight, is going to be gorgeous. So it's very, very difficult, the decision for me. But I'm trying to limit my focus down to the you know, better and worse. I think the negative impacts outweigh the benefit to the rest of the city as it's presented today. That doesn't mean I don't like 90% of what's been presented, because I do. And that includes the removal of the trees, unfortunately, which seems to be a breaking point for everyone I've talked to. So the compromise part, I don't think compromise exists. I hate to say that. I think there's something, if it doesn't go forward, I don't know that the compromise will ever be satisfactory to the folks that I've met with, for the most part, and that's unfortunate to say. So I'm even taking that a lot out of my decision-making. I have to try to do what I think is best. And for me tonight, as we sit here today, based on the financial piece, based on some of the elements of the parking concerns that I do have, because I believe this will be a very successful venue, and I think the parking will be a significant impact on the neighbors. That's one of the reasons I supported a 4-story parking garage down by the yacht club, because I believe in it that greatly, because I think that impact outweighs the minimal financial benefit to our city. So for that reason, I'm going to vote no this evening. Thank you.
I don't see any other lights on, so I guess I'll jump in here. You know, one of the things, first off, I want to say is, you know, we've had a spirited discussion at the least over the last 18 months on this topic. And I agree with some of the things that my colleagues say. You know, for me, I represent the whole community, all 220,000. One thing that I've always tried to do sitting here in this chair is plan for the future. Every decision that I have made over the last 7 years sitting on this dais was try to benefit the residents in the future. This project here will do exactly that. This project here will benefit the residents of our community 10, 20, and 30 years from now. You know, you heard Councilmember Carr mention about the $185,000, which was estimated revenue over the last 2 years, or forecasted for the next 2 years on this project. You know, we just spent $60 million in parks throughout our city over the last 5 years. How much revenue are we taking in for that $60 million? Very, very little. Very little. So, to me, the income that we're bringing in doesn't really impact my decision-making. You know, parks isn't a revenue generator. That's not what we do here. Now, since we've been having this discussion for the last 18 months, I've met with 2 people over the last 18 months. 2 people has called my office and asked to meet with me. I will say the first meeting had 3 individuals at it, but it was 1 meeting. The second meeting was today. Mr. Boswell came in and spoke to me today. And we had a very productive conversation and went through the proposal. And I wish more people would have reached out and had done that. We all know standing up there at the mic for 3 minutes in a one-way conversation is extremely difficult. And I think one lesson that I've learned out of this is, and hopefully our community has as well, is to have more sit-down discussions with our council and help them understand your position and have that two-way dialogue so we may be able to explain our position. We haven't hardly been given that opportunity. You know, one of the comments earlier in citizens' input, one thing that I've always said, and I'll repeat it again today, was that I wouldn't support J.C. Park if we didn't know exactly what we were doing with the Go Bond projects. So over the last couple of weeks, I've had sit-down discussions with staff, our finance director, to see where we are with that. And I think it's important for me to mention some of it. You know, the $60 million Go Bond project has well exceeded $60 million to the tune of $88,461,575. So we're about $28 million, almost $28.5 million over budget. And we could sit here and talk all night while we're over budget, but that's where we're at. And that's excluding, we've taken out the yacht club. And we're still $28 million that we are over. And I've always said that I think that's important. We asked the voters to go to the polls several years ago and vote for the Go Bond projects. I wanted to make sure that we fulfilled our obligation and our commitment to you. We asked you to go vote for it. You did. You passed it. It's our obligation to make sure that we do the job that we told you we were going to do. So when you look at the $88 million of projects, and you ask where a speaker, I don't see him out here now, I guess he left, had asked where we are with the Go Bond. Well, let's talk about the additional $28 million in revenue that we have to come up with to at least satisfy that $60 million commitment that we made to you. We're going to take 7.3 out of the FEMA reimbursements. We've taken 5.4 in COVID reimbursements, 8 million from the disaster relief fund, 6 million from parks impact fees, estimated FEMA reimbursement for Hurricane Ian of $1.6 million. And that will give us the $28.5 million, the offset, the difference, the delta between the 60 million and the 88 million. And as of today, we have either we've spent $718,314 so far for the Parks Go Bond. We've encumbered the remaining $15 million with Crystal Lake. We have encumbered, for that particular project, $9 million. Festival Park, $6.1 million. The $60 million is gone today. It's either been spent, that's the 44 million, or what we've encumbered for Crystal Lake and Festival Park. And then we have to add in the 28 million that I told you where we're getting those funds, just to fulfill our commitment to you on the $60 million Go Bond. Now we have J.C. Park that we're talking about. I'm a firm believer that we have to plan for the future. And I sat up here and I told you, unless I have a good understanding of how we're paying for the $60 million Go Bond, I would vote no. And you heard a speaker here tonight said it's okay to change your mind. And until 2 weeks ago, I was going to vote no. And I appreciate the validation, it's okay to change your mind. Because when I sat down with staff to see exactly where the monies were spent, for what projects, and where we're getting the additional $28 million. Specifically, I wanted to make sure, before I voted tonight, I wanted to make sure we're going to fulfill our commitment to the $60 million GO bond projects that we outlined. And I'm pleased to tell you, we either have or we are going to do that. You know, you take a look at the yacht club redevelopment. We already know that's going to be a debt service. We're going to have revenue bonds to hopefully pay for that project. We know that project's going to be between $100 and $150 million. We don't know exactly what it's going to be, but I don't think that we'd stop. You know, I've heard some people today say, well, we should wait till the next council. We all were elected up here for 4 years. That's whenever the day starts and whenever the day ends. We don't say, well, we're going to have to make a tough decision, or maybe we'll make a different decision than the next council. But we are all here until November. We're not going to shut the doors down. We're not closing City Hall. We're not sending 2,000 employees home. We're going to still make decisions all the way to the end of November. And I think that's our ethical responsibility to do that. So, you know, Mr. Boswell, some of the things I just wanted to point out that you and I spoke today on. You had a concern with the almost $1.4 million, thought it was in financing, maybe the food trucks. I know our assistant city manager reiterated that, but I did sit down, like I told you I was doing, with our city attorney to take a look at that project. And we're getting a lump sum payment within 60 days of once this contract is approved. You had mentioned the band shell as far as the individual or the company going in and run the restaurant there would have control over the band shell. My understanding, speaking with our city attorney, there's basically a smaller band shell and a larger band shell. The smaller band shell that's near where the restaurant will be located, that's what they're in control of, not the larger band shell. You were concerned that there wasn't a maximum amount for the project, but in the contract there is a maximum amount of a little over $18 million. If it's not that much, then we will not be paying that much. That's how the agreement is structured. You had asked about, said we were only getting 2.5% of the revenues from the restaurant there at J.C. Park. That's not accurate. We get 4%, and if I remember correctly, you had said today that we would get the average individuals out in the United States get between 4 and 5. Now, in our contract, we get 4% up to $500,000, and after $500,000, we get 2.5%. Now, the projections for the first 2 years, we're just starting out. The business is only, you know, I've been in business for 37 years now. I can tell you the first 5 years I struggled. So it's going to take time for this particular restaurant, I'm sure, to get on their feet, to be successful down the road. They're going to be more successful 5 years from now than they will for 2 years. So, and to Councilmember Carr's comment, I think we're going to get well over that $185,000. That's the projection just for the 2 years. Just with the structure of the 4% up to $500,000 and 2.5% thereafter, you know, there's going to be more monies there, I believe. Just look at our agreement that we have at the yacht club with the boathouse. You know, we bring in somewhere about $700,000, $800,000 a year just on that project alone. So for me, I'm looking for the future of our city. I appreciate the dialogue that we've had for the last 18 months. But as you heard here today, you know, we've heard from a number of residents of the community that are for this. I can understand why a majority of the residents that live around the park probably aren't for this. I get that. I understand that. But when I look at the city as a whole and the benefit I guess I look at it a little differently than Councilmember Carr. I think the benefit outweigh some of the concerns that you have. Now, I will say that I think that we have to make sure, if this project moves forward, we have to make sure that we protect you as the resident of that area, to make sure that if there are problems that arise out of this, that we diligently address them. We have to make sure that, I heard quality of life mentioned earlier tonight, and I want to make sure that your quality of life isn't impacted too negatively or any amount of negativity as a result of this project. When you saw the video tonight, I think it's going to be beautiful. You know, I've been here. I remember people coming here with Cape Harbor. I was just visiting them when they were talking about Cape Harbor, or they had the first tower. They're talking about the second tower, how the community was in an uproar. I can't believe you're doing this to our community. The same thing with Tarpon Point. I was here when Tarpon Point was built, and the amount of people that came out for that project. Now look at all the people that utilize those two facilities. I think you're going to see the same here. I think some of you that wanted to keep the park the way it is, I promise you, you'll probably visit the park afterwards. Now, I don't know if you'll change your view or not, but I think it's going to be a great amenity to our community. But I think we have to make sure that we protect you and your quality of life as this process and this project moves forward. So, because of the reasons I stated, because I have a good understanding of the Park Go Bond monies that's either been spent or that's been allocated for the two additional projects at Crystal Lake and Festival Park, I'll support this project for moving forward, and that's my position. Councilmember Wells.
Thank you. In light of everything that's been said, and looking out at the room today, it's been a difficult decision. I've been with you guys here for a year on this, but I also see the courage that some people came out today, knowing that they're coming into a room full of people that are going to be against them in support of this. I see all angles of it, and for me, I have to look at what's best for Cape Coral. I've lived here my whole life. I've enjoyed J.C. Park the way that it is, but it's encouraging to see young families here with their children close to 7:30, 8 o'clock at night in here support of this. It's kind of been a decision-making factor for me to know that we're putting in the handicap facilities. I've always supported the infrastructure building at J.C. Park. I've always supported the additional size that we've gotten into this plan for the pavilions. I've always supported moving the parking away from the center of the park to the outside of the park. There's a lot of good things, as well as some that I'm not 100% with. But in this position, you have to look at compromise. And knowing that they put an area for the wet zone, I was never okay with alcohol in the park, but seeing that that is a component of it, shrinking it, keeping it, policing it, doing whatever that has to be. As you all know, my position isn't a yes or no. It's what's best for the community. And I have to look at that. I think it's what's best for the community. And for people to come up and say, we need to wait for a new council, or you need to wait. I've been here for a year and a half dealing with it and listening to it. A new council is not. So I don't and have never been a proponent of kicking projects down the can, kicking the can down the road and just waiting to see what happens. I've wanted to see projects completed. Things like the Chiquita Lock, things like that are things that I'm happy that I can hang my hat on the wall at the end of the day when my term on city council is going to end in November. I have not gotten through the primary. I see that. I understand it. But I am here to still represent the citizens until then. And I am going to continue doing that. And I do support J.C. Park. Thank you.
Councilmember Hayden.
Yeah, I don't know that my position is, excuse me, has changed much since the beginning of this. I've supported the project. I've supported the opportunities that it brings to the entire community. I've been against alcohol at the park, and I will remain in that position. I had discussions on Monday about the times that the reef was open, 11 to 9. I would hope that in the future we might look at adjusting those hours during certain times so it's not open as late. But for me, it wasn't enough to derail a vision. It wasn't enough to derail something that I believe is needed in this community. And as others said, I appreciate the young folks coming out tonight. I've heard it from our youth council. I've heard it from our youth council for 2 years that they wanted places to gather. You know, they don't really have those right now, whether it's at any of our parks. I think this provides them an opportunity to get together in the evenings after school, on the weekends. So there's a lot of pluses. I believe, Connie, and correct me if I'm wrong, I believe we're adding parking spaces there as well. And I like the fact that we're taking them and putting them in a place where it gets them away from the people that are going to be in the park. I've been to that park many times where I've seen cars driving by children, and it can get dangerous. So I think putting the parking where it is good. Our parks were never meant to be revenue producers. They're meant to be amenities. If there's an opportunity to make money that can be invested back into the parks, even that park, I think that's only a plus. So I appreciate staff's hard work on this. You know, I've attended and written and participated in council meetings for 20 years, and the one thing I hear every year is leave this to the next council. It doesn't work. It stops opportunity. It stops momentum. It just delays things that are important for the city. So I will never, ever agree to that. And I want to remind the mayor we still don't have a motion or a second yet for this after all this discussion. So that's my position.
Thank you. Mr. City Attorney?
Yes, before there's any actions going to be taken, I just want to provide a little bit of clarification regarding resolution number 209-24. There were two minor modifications, and I'm going to read them so that they're in the record. The city clerk does have the corrected version. So on page 2, item number 2, line 6, it has been modified from stipulated lump sum basis has been changed to not to exceed basis. On page 3, item number 5, sale and consumption of alcohol has been added to the list of modifications following bar and band shell. Those are the only minor modifications. The clerk does have that. Doesn't affect the validity of the resolution other than that under the P3 statute.
Thank you. Could you elaborate a little further on that lump sum change? Are we talking about the 1.4?
No, we were talking about the 18,081,081. So it was originally a stipulated lump sum basis, but now it is a not to exceed amount. And so anything, it will never exceed that, but we could have, in fact, savings, and those savings will be realized once we get to more final completion regarding the project sketches from Pannoni.
Okay. All right, and I don't see any lights on, so at this time, I'll entertain a motion for Resolution 209-24.
Motion to approve with
Second.
the proposed changes by the city attorney, or revisions rather.
And if I could assist
Please.
regarding the motion. The motion as it stands right now would be recognizing that the unsolicited public-private partnership proposal that has been received from Fortress Secured for the J.C. Park Improvement Project is in the public's interest, and that the City Council has in fact considered the 5 individual factors in making that determination, which factors have been in fact incorporated within the resolution, specifically identifying the satisfaction and consideration.
Madam City Clerk, would you let the record reflect that's exactly what I meant to say in my motion?
Yes.
Thank you.
And the second agree? All right, any council discussion on that? Seeing none, Madam City Clerk, please call the roll.
Aye.
Steinke,
Aye.
Welsh,
Aye.
Carr,
No?
Costin,
No.
Gunter,
Aye.
Hayden,
Aye.
Long.
Aye.
That's 6 ayes, 2 nays, motion carried.
Okay, I think we'll take a 15-minute break and come back at 7:45 to resume the rest of the meeting. Okay, I'd like to call the meeting back to order. Next item on the agenda is 9D, new business. First is Resolution 253-24. Mr. City Manager, I'll turn it over to you first.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Just would like to kind of briefly go through a little bit of the way that the incentive agreement was structured, similar to the developer's agreement to develop on the property. We have put some triggers in there and some incentives to get the developer to develop both fast and as big, or with as big as a magnitude as possible in there. And so just to hit the highlights, they are just at about $123 million in incentives payable over 25 years. The first payment will not flow to them until they hit 50,000 square feet of non-residential. As you may recall, in the developer's agreement, the developer, in order to get access to all 1,200 units of the multifamily, needed to deliver 50,000 CO'd non-residential space to get access to the second 400 units, and then 100,000 square feet to get access to the third set of 400 units. So kind of understanding the flow of what they need to do and deliver, we triggered the reimbursement of the Enhanced Property Value Recapture Grant Program to start the 25-year clock on the first 50,000 square foot, and we would begin flowing all of the revenue after they hit 200,000 square feet. So double what they need to hit in order to have access to the residential units. And as a matter of macro view, the project is a $1.2 billion project, and our maximum incentive would be about $123 million. So we're sitting at about a 10% investment in the partnership in the project. The things that are eligible to total the maximum amount of incentive are all elements that are related to public infrastructure and public amenities in the development. So the roads, the water and sewer, the stormwater, the sidewalks, the parks inside the town center, all of those things that are public facing, and then lastly, 2 parking garages. If they don't build any one of those elements, and all of those elements combined are what takes us or sums up to the approximately 123 million, they are not eligible for those expenses to be rebated in the tax program, rebate program. So for example, if there's a $30 million parking garage and they only build one, that would be deducted from the maximum allowable, and it would be approximately a $90 million rebate throughout the program. So in order for them to get the maximum amount, they have to build everything that they've planned. And in order to achieve the maximum amount of payouts in the 25-year time period, they have to deliver it quickly. So if they hit the 50,000 mark and stall out for a year or 3 or 5 years, we don't start flowing all the funds back to them. They only get the revenue coming off that 50,000 square foot that was delivered. So the way we've built this was very similar to what we did on the developers agreement. We tried to incentivize them to bring commercial to the table first. Here, in order to get the maximum amount of rebate, we're incentivizing them to build everything and build it quick. And that's a summary of the agreement that was in Resolution 253-24.
Thank you. I'll open up for any council discussion or entertain a motion for Resolution 253-24.
Motion to approve?
Second.
Any council discussion? Seeing none, Madam City Clerk, please call the roll.
Shepherd?
Aye.
Steinke?
Aye.
Welsh?
Aye.
March?
Aye.
Cosner?
Aye.
Gunter?
Aye.
Hayden?
Aye.
Long?
Aye.
8 ayes, motion carried.
Okay, item 10 is ordinance and resolutions. 10A is quasi-judicial hearings. We do not have any listed tonight. So I'll move on to 10B, which is legislative public hearings. First of which is ordinance 54-24. Madam City Clerk, please read the title.
Ordinance 54-24, an ordinance amending the City of Cape Coral, Florida, Ordinance 22-24, which amended Ordinance 1-24, which amended Ordinance 70-23, which adopted the City of Cape Coral, Florida operating budget, revenues and expenditures, and capital budget for fiscal year 2024. By increasing the total revenues and expenditures by a total of $55,939,470, providing for severability and an effective date.
Thank you. Mr. Mason, is this your topic?
No, I bet you it is.
But we didn't mean to bother you back there.
I'm sorry. And here I am, not at all prepared for this. That makes me feel bad. No, wait a second, that's not it. Prepared now. Mr. Mayor, council members, Mark Mason, Financial Services Director. This is the third budget amendment for fiscal year 2024. It's the third of four. We generally have one more that we'll come back and do in November before the close of the fiscal year, to close out the fiscal year. This is governed by Florida statute, provides that we can do budget amendments during the course of the year or any time within 60 days following the end of the fiscal year. This recognizes generally any council actions that have occurred during the course of between March and June of 2024, as well as any other personal services, operating or capital adjustments that are necessary or needed during the course of during that period. The overview is the budget amendment increases the overall budget by $55.9 million. And I'll break down what that means. $46.7 million, or 83.5% of the adjustment is associated with items that have already been previously approved by the City Council. There's a couple of other adjustments of $8.9 million, or 15.9% of the increase, and so we have some personnel changes of $319,000 associated with this budget amendment as well. Before I get into the specifics, I think there's a couple of things to talk about budget amendments. We had a brief discussion about this last week at our budget workshop. In general, we adopt a budget that starts on October 1st, and during the course of the year, as we've shown by doing multiple budget amendments during every year, that this is a living document. If it was meant that when we adopt a budget that it should never change, they would never give us the opportunity or the authorization by statute to actually amend the budget. So things do change during the course of the year, and so when those happen, we need to be prepared for them, especially when we receive grants that weren't anticipated or things like that, to where we have to amend the budget associated with that. And so between March and June, we had a number of different items that came in. One of them was a $25 million grant that we received from the state of Florida. This was for the gravity sewer infrastructure for the North One Utilities area, extension area. The majority of the items that are up here are associated with grants, as well as when we had the resurfacing, we needed to adjust for resurfacing, and we added additional funding from both the 5-cent and the 6-cent gas tax for doing additional resurfacing that was not planned for the expenditure. In addition, we also have adding the management services for the Lake Kennedy Racket Center, as well as a couple of other items included in this schedule. Some other adjustments that we have is after we entered into the agreement for management services at Coral Oaks. This past year, we had moved Coral Oaks into the general fund before we had entered into this contract, with the understanding that we were basically picking up some of the costs associated with Coral Oaks at the time. At this point, it needs to go back where it came from because we have a management contract. It's in a special revenue fund, so we're reallocating it back to a special revenue fund. In addition, we had a purchase for some property over on Santa Barbara Boulevard. This $2.6 million is offset by additional ad valorem taxes that we received when we received the final valuation by the property appraiser in October. And so this is we're offsetting that acquisition with those additional revenues. We also have we've recorded the charter school bus lease for the internal service fund. We've also have a number of other items in the special revenue fund, building code. We've allocated, when we adjusted the design for where we had the fleet facility and adding the property management building in there, we needed to add the whole allocation of where the funding is coming from for that design. Also, we had road impact fees. This was changing the overall funding for the Andalusia Boulevard from debt to a cash-funded project. We have some other items included in here, again, capital project funds for the acquisition for the property of Santa Barbara, as well as the fleet maintenance facility. Water and sewer, we are reducing debt proceeds budget for an actual project amount. And we have some personnel changes, the majority of the cost of which the majority of the positions either that we're eliminating or we're adding are cost neutral to the budget. For the enterprise fund, for the positions for the enterprise fund is for adding a new crew for installation of meters, and the bulk of the cost associated with that is the authorization to go out and purchase the vehicles and the equipment today. In addition, we also have capital improvement project management for capital items associated with the internal service fund for CIP. And that's actually a vehicle. And so I'm here for any questions. Sorry for going over 5 minutes, my bad.
You were late anyway, so you had a couple more minutes.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir. I'll open up for any council discussion. I'll open up public hearing first. Anyone wishing to speak on ordinance 54-24, please come forward. Seeing none, public hearing is now closed. I will entertain a motion for ordinance 54-24.
Motion to approve.
Is there any council discussion? Councilmember Long.
Yeah, Mr. Mason, if you wouldn't mind pulling up, I think it was your last slide with regards to the FTEs and the statement that it was cost neutral. Can you explain how we got to that? I mean, because we've got Exhibit C in the backup that appears to have a much larger breakdown as far as the FTEs that were provided.
Correct. For the number of personnel that we're talking about here, we have, in many cases, salary savings already built into the budget, and having some vacant positions within each one of the departments associated with these positions. So in evaluating the budgetary impact, and the budgetary impact is for the final portion of the fiscal year, we look at that and evaluate it against the salary savings, and it becomes a cost-neutral impact to the budget.
And then what was the total change that we had calculated as far as new or reduced FTEs as part of this amendment?
I believe the net is actually a negative number when we add them all together, because we're removing out all of the golf course contract positions that are currently budgeted within the system. But overall, it's.
I'm trying to find it here. The negative 2.83 is what you've got reflected.
16 positions, I believe, is.
I guess
is
the only
ad.
point I was trying to make, and I know it wasn't purposeful, but a lot of stuff gets lost in translation doing what you guys do, which is an incredible job, but very analytical and frankly beyond my grasp, is the way that it's presented is confusing, because although we technically have gotten rid of those 16, our financial obligation to those employees still remains. It's just coming out of a different budget under a different classification. Is that correct?
It is included in the overall budget for the golf course that is being managed by
So
someone
we're still
else, yes.
financially obligated to those employees.
We are not.
So we don't pay the golf course for their employees?
We don't pay the golf course for their employees. The revenues that they earn pay for their employees.
Which otherwise would have been borne by us.
The employees are employees of Troon. They're not our employees. So I think I understand what you're saying. The budget itself associated with the operation of the golf course hasn't really changed much, but for us, we had 16.17 positions associated with the golf course that were still on the books that needed to be removed.
So I guess I'll follow up with you after, but the financial amount of those positions in the FTEs for those golf course positions that we're reducing, what is that figure?
If I remember correctly, it was about $156,954 was the budgetary impact.
Could you be a little more specific, please?
Well, right, but again, to that point, the budgetary impact for the remaining budget year.
Correct.
Which is only 2 months.
Correct.
So these figures here, well, again, talking about the way that they're presented, all these changes, it's shown that it's only a couple $100,000, but it's not noted that that couple $100,000 is only reflective of 2 months of a budgetary year. So you multiply that by 6, and that's the actual budgetary amount for the recurring expenses moving forward.
Correct.
Okay. So in that case, it wouldn't be 100-something for a year, it would be...
It would have been closer to about a couple of $100,000, $300,000 or $400,000 for the part-time positions.
Okay. All right, I'll follow up with you after. Thank you.
Okay.
Any other discussions? I believe we have a motion and a second on the floor. Madam City Clerk, could you call the roll, please?
Shepherd?
Aye.
Steinke?
Aye.
Welsh?
Aye.
Carr?
Aye.
Costin? Aye. Gunter?
Aye.
Hayden?
Aye.
Long?
Aye.
8 ayes, motion carried.
Okay, we'll move on to ordinance 58-24. Madam City Clerk, please read title.
Ordinance
Thank you.
58-24.
Thank you, Ms. Mason.
An ordinance amending the City of Cape Coral, Florida Code of Ordinances, Chapter 2, Administration, Article 2, Fees, Division 9, Impact Fee Deferral Pilot Program, regarding the Single-Family Impact Fee Deferral Program, providing for severability and an effective date.
Thank you. I'll turn it over to staff. Ms. Yearsley.
Good evening, Mayor, council members. For the record, Amy Yearsley, City Planning Manager. Ordinance 58-24 permanently adopts the Single-Family Impact Fee Deferral Program to facilitate the production of workforce affordable housing as directed at the budget workshop earlier this summer. The original pilot program was adopted by Ordinance 36-18 and was limited to 4 years or 100 units. The program expired in 2022. There were 56 deferrals granted during that period, totaling approximately $317,000. The Affordable Housing Advisory Committee recommended this program be permanent, and the City Council approved this recommendation upon adoption of the Local Housing Incentive Plan by Resolution 330-23. At the June 6th budget workshop, staff presented this topic and received direction to bring both a single-family and a multifamily deferral program forward. The multifamily program will be coming in a subsequent ordinance. The permanent program mirrors the pilot program with one change, and that is the inclusion of an annual limit cap of 20 per fiscal year. And I am available for any questions if you have them.
Thank you. I'll now open up public hearing. Anyone here wishing to speak on ordinance 58-24, please come forward. Seeing none, public hearing is now closed. I will entertain a motion regarding ordinance 58-24.
Motion to approve.
Is there any council discussion? Seeing none, Madam City Clerk, please call the roll.
Shepherd? Aye. Steinke?
Aye.
Welsh?
Aye.
Carr?
Aye.
Costin? Aye. Gunter?
Aye.
Hayden?
Aye.
Long?
Aye.
8 ayes, motion carried.
Okay, we'll move on to 10C introductions, first of which is ordinance 61-24. Madam City Clerk, please read the title, set the public hearing date.
Ordinance 61-24, an ordinance of the Mayor and City Council of the City of Cape Coral, Florida, approving the license agreement between the City of Cape Coral, a Florida municipal corporation, and Sun Broadcasting, Inc., a Florida corporation, for the temporary use of Sun Broadcasting, Inc. of a portion of city-managed property known as Bernice Braden Park to plant American flags to honor the lives lost in the September 11, 2001 attacks, providing for severability and an effective date. The public hearing will be August 28, 2024.
Any discussion by staff or council? Seeing none, we'll move on to ordinance 55-24. Madam City Clerk, please read title, set the public hearing date.
Ordinance 55-24, an ordinance of the mayor and city council of the city of Cape Coral, Florida, amending the city of Cape Coral, Florida comprehensive plan by amending the future land use map from commercial activity center to commercial/professional land use for property described as all of block 2553B, unit 37, Cape Coral, property located at 723 Nelson Road, providing for severability and an effective date. The public hearing will be September 4th, 2024.
Any discussion by staff or council? Seeing none, we'll move on to ordinance 56-24. Madam City Clerk, please read the title, set the public hearing date.
Ordinance 56-24, an ordinance of the mayor and city council of the city of Cape Coral, Florida, amending Article 5, Development Standards, Chapter 4, Marine Improvements, Section 5.4.7, Boat Canopies and Sun Shelters of the Land Development Code of the city of Cape Coral, Florida regarding boat canopies, providing for severability and an effective date. The public hearing will be September 4th, 2024.
Thank you. Any discussion by staff or council? Seeing none, we'll move on to ordinance 57-24. Madam City Clerk, please read title, set the public hearing date.
Ordinance 57-24, an ordinance of the mayor and city council of the city of Cape Coral, Florida, amending the city of Cape Coral, Florida comprehensive plan by amending the future land use map from single-family/multifamily to commercial/professional land use for property described as all of block 2297B, unit 36, Cape Coral subdivision. Property located at the northeast corner of the intersection of Santa Barbara Boulevard North and Kismet Parkway, providing for severability and an effective date. The public hearing will be September 4th, 2024.
Thank you. Any discussion by staff or council? Seeing none, we'll move on to item 11, reports. Councilmember Steinke, report.
Yes, on the 8th of August, I represented the city at the Tourist Development Council meeting for Lee County. On the 9th of August, I was the liaison to our youth council. The 15th through 18th of August, I attended the Florida League of Cities Conference, where I sit on the Joint Legislative Policy Committee. And today, I was in attendance at the Chamber of Southwest Florida's meeting with representatives regarding Southwest Florida water challenges. That's it.
Thank you. Councilmember Welsh.
Thank you. Also on August 15th through the 17th, I attended the Florida League of Cities Conference, as well as many other of our fellow council members. I did want to bring up at this point potentially something to talk about with in light of yesterday's election results. I know typically in December we pick new committees. There's a few committees that I'm on, being Planning and Zoning and CTAC. I don't know if anyone up here that's not on those committees that will be here in the future wants to take my position on that so that they can be more familiar. I wholeheartedly will continue to represent council on those, but if there's any interest, please reach out, let me know, and then maybe in a future meeting we can discuss it. Thank you.
Thank you. Councilmember Carr.
Yeah, thank you, Mayor. Just one clarification. After speaking with Ms. Barron on the break, there was some, I guess I wasn't clear, one of my discussion points earlier. I just wanted to make clear that when I made a reference to the $185,000 revenue, just part of my assessment, if there was no revenue, I'm not a parks revenue supporter in general, but it was a factor that I considered that wasn't enough to sway my decision. And actually, I said to Connie was, if the food trucks and the bistro were removed from the plan, I would have supported it. So it had nothing to do with the revenue. It was just a factor that I mentioned, and I don't think it was received properly. So I just wanted to clarify for others that may not have understood either, or I was not clear enough in my explanation. So thank you.
Thank you. Councilmember Cosden.
No report.
Councilmember Hayden.
No report.
Councilmember Long.
No report.
My report's pretty quick. I attended on August 9th the Horizon Council Executive Committee meeting for Councilmember Hayden. Also, on 8/15 through 8/18, I attended the Florida League of Cities annual conference over in Hollywood, Florida. At that time, I was reelected to the Board of Directors for the Florida League of Cities and the Executive Board, so I'll continue on both of those boards. And that is my report, Mr. City Attorney.
Thank you, Mayor. Briefly, as you all know, the former council member has resolved her criminal case. As part of that resolution, there is a requirement that she formally resign her seat from the city council. I want to let you all know that as of today, I did receive that formal notice of resignation that was remitted to the governor. So in the event that does come up, you all are aware, I did receive it. It has been filed, and that is required pursuant to her resolution of the case. And that's all.
Mr. City Manager.
No report.
Okay, time and place of future meeting. The regular meeting of the Cape Coral City Council is scheduled for Wednesday, August 28th, 2024, beginning at 4:30 PM here in council chambers. Do I have a motion to adjourn?
Motion to adjourn. Second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Meeting adjourned.